You guys, and we've got a jam-packed show. We're going to get right to this. A Fox News alert, another hack on Democrats. This time, hundreds of personal phone numbers and emails for House members release.
The hacker known as Guccifer 2.0 is taking responsibility for it this morning.
And our Garrett Tenney is live in Washington, D.C. with the breaking details. Good morning, Garrett. What can you tell us?
Anna, Taker, and Clayton, good morning. This is only the latest document dump in what's becoming a string of cyber attacks on the Democratic Party. Last night, the hacker or group of hackers known as Guccifer 2.0 posted documents purportedly stolen from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. That's the official campaign arm of House Democrats. Now, while this document dump does not appear to include many email conversations, it does include personal contact information for 193 current and former House Democrats, including their personal emails, cell phones, and home addresses. The documents also list shared passwords for the DCC, as well as campaign documents. The Wall Street Journal reports it was able to contact House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer using the number listed, and that when they called, it was the first he'd heard of it. Guccifer 2.0 posted the documents on a blog, along with this statement that reads in part, "It's time for new revelations now. All of you may have heard about the DCCC hack. As you see, I wasn't wasting my time. It was even easier than in the case of the DNC breach." Now, the DCCC is now working with officials to investigate the cyber attack, and it says in a statement, "We are aware of reports that documents claimed to be from our network have been released and are investigating their authenticity." Now, this all comes in the wake of these other cyber attacks that we've heard, and top officials, intelligence officials say they do believe that they come from a group affiliated with the Russian government. Guccifer 2.0, though, says that has no relation to the Russians. Back to y'all.
Interesting.
Garrett Tenney live from Washington. Well, there is news also from that city this morning. The Clinton Foundation, the subject of many news stories in the past couple of weeks about foreign actors and foreign governments apparently trying to buy influence with the State Department when Hillary Clinton ran it by donating to the Clinton Foundation, the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation. Now comes news from the Daily Caller that at least 3 cities, U.S. attorneys in conjunction with the FBI, are investigating those claims actively right now.
Right, so if the DOJ may not be doing this out of Washington, D.C., field offices for the FBI may be doing so in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the Clinton Foundation was set up, in New York City, where the Clinton Global Initiative takes place and their headquarters are, and then also in Washington, D.C., where she spent her time at the State Department.
So, I mean, this is mind-blowing. And if you think about it, I'm sure your head is probably spinning at home because you're thinking, wait a minute, didn't we just have like an email investigation? How is that different now? This Clinton scandal, the Clinton Foundation, how are these two things separate? Well, they are separate. We actually have a former FBI agent who's going to come on the show in a short time here to talk about that, the former FBI Deputy Assistant Director, on what these probes actually mean. Because they're two totally different things. And were they being paid to play? You fly over and give a speech, and then we get cozy with you and have meetings after Bill Clinton shows up and gives a speech.
And the more you press at this, the more you get. The Clinton Foundation really is a scandal piñata that has not yet been broken open. But I think for years people wanted to know, why in the world would the government of the United Arab Emirates, would the Saudis, would the North Koreans attempted to do a deal with the Clinton Foundation? Why would they be so anxious to help a foundation that doesn't actually give any money to the poor? Maybe because they want to buy influence.
Well, Tucker, whether there's Tootsie Rolls and Blow Pops in that piñata you're talking about or not, it's not something that the Clinton campaign wants to talk about at all. So what have they done? Hillary Clinton has released her taxes, and Kaine has done so as well. Now they're pressuring Donald Trump to do so. Well, he's saying, no, this isn't what people care about. What people care about is different records from you, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, this happened last night. So to maybe change the conversation on a Friday night, Friday night when in the middle of the summer, everyone's out on a boat or doing, going to the movies. Well, Jason Miller, campaign spokesperson for the Trump campaign, had this to say: Hillary Clinton has turned over the only records nobody wants to see from her. The American public wants to see the 33,000 emails that she deleted. We want to see the Clinton Foundation records showing how the Clintons sold our uranium to Russia. We want to see the pay-for-play emails. We want to see the transcripts of the secret Wall Street speeches Clinton was paid $10,000 a minute to give.
Actually, I was glad to see the tax returns. I thought they were interesting as heck. I mean, for one thing, we learned the Clintons have made almost $250 million since he left office 16 years. $250 million.
But they were dead broke, so they really needed it. We'll actually dive into those tax returns later in the show.
Every dollar, pretty much, that she gave to charity was to her own foundation. Is it really charity? If I give charity, but the charity is the Carlson Children Education Fund.
Yes.
Is that really charity?
Yeah, it's like George Costanza on Seinfeld creating the Human Fund. Just make up your own charity.
Known as My Wallet.
Well, this whole email discussion, though, Democrats have played off as just a witch hunt from Republicans. Bill Clinton, back out on the campaign trail after his big speech at the DNC convention, had this to say about the email scandal. Listen.
First of all, the FBI director said, when he testified before Congress, he had to amend his previous day statement that she had never received any emails marked classified. They saw two little notes with a C on it. This is the biggest load of bull I ever heard. Her adversaries are very good at doing reverse plastic surgery. And the truth is that it was a mistake for her to use her personal email, even though her predecessors had, and her successor, John Kerry, did for a year until it was no longer legal. But she should have known there'd be a different set of rules applied to her if she ever ran for president.
Kind of a way, he's saying the same sort of thing that Hillary Clinton said on with Chris Wallace last Sunday that got her into hot water for a whole week.
Well, somewhere, Director Comey of the FBI is sitting in his pajamas drinking coffee watching this, probably in suburban D.C. right now thinking, wait, that's not what I said. Yeah. I said in public that Hillary Clinton sent over 100 emails with classified information in them. And here's the former president of the United States saying, I didn't say that. I mean, how can Clinton, good try defending your wife and all that. That's, but that's like factually untrue. But come on. This is politics. These politicians, they don't spew facts when they. That's just flat out lying.
But what is the American public thinking when they hear this? Maybe they're buying what Hillary Clinton is saying, and maybe they're buying what Bill Clinton is saying. Maybe when they hear emails this, emails that, they're just hearing wah 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 wah.
Well,
that may be right. Teacher. I think they all. Well, look at Pennsylvania, right? Pennsylvania right now, battleground state, hugely important for the Clinton campaign. She's got to hold on to this state. If Donald Trump can take Pennsylvania, that's a huge boon for his camp. And right now, that's why Donald Trump is in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He was in Erie the day before, and he was in Altoona, Pennsylvania yesterday, trying to drum up support and talking about Hillary Clinton lying and her email scandal. Listen.
Hey, look. Has anybody lied as much as Hillary Clinton? Has anybody? You look at the FBI director, and you see what went on with the emails. You see how she got away with that. I think that will go down in her career as her single greatest achievement, how she got out of that mess. But she's not out of it yet. Let's see what happens. It's disgraceful. Honestly, it's disgraceful.
Well, it's probably helpful to the Donald Trump campaign that he is talking about her emails and not about Clinton and Obama being founders of ISIS.
I got to say, what upsets me about that Comey speech that Trump is referring to here is the fact that Comey said, look, if it was anybody else, if it wasn't Hillary Clinton, that person might be prosecuted right now. You don't want to think the system is corrupt and there's a different standard for different people. I find that really depressing. It stuck with me.
But that's been his whole narrative, and that's, I think, why he's been so successful, Donald Trump, is talking about these different standards, these different rules apply to you, the working class folks here in this room, and not the people like
I don't want to believe that. I want to think it's a fair system. I really do.
Yeah, it's a great way for him to court Bernie Sanders supporters, too. All right, on to some extreme weather that's making news now. Louisiana now under a state of emergency after heavy downpours led to severe flooding.
Take a look at this. The torrential rain already claiming the lives of 2 people. Dozens also had to be rescued from waist-high water surrounding their homes, including this one where several bystanders are being called heroes after an elderly driver washed off the road.
I just told him, don't panic. I'm here for you. I'm going to get you out these waters. I'm going to rescue you.
Wow. Not even to mention air travel yesterday, which was really a mess. Rick Reichmuth, of course, was watching it all, and he joins us now with an update.
Hey, guys, remember last week I was talking about this whole week long, we're going to see about 7 days of rain across the Central Gulf. And here we are 7 days later, and this is the exact same system. And when you think about all of the tropical systems, Hurricane Katrina, all the litany of hurricanes that have hit the Central Gulf, this one is bringing more rain and more flooding in a lot of cases here, just inland across Louisiana than we have seen with any of those storms. Not a hurricane because the center of it is over land, not over water. Had this been a little bit to the south, we would have had a completely different, likely much worse situation. But the rain has been falling for about 36 hours now, in some spots well over 20 inches, primarily just to the west of New Orleans and to the north, so up towards around Baton Rouge. That's the bullseye of this. And the moisture is still in place. It's not done. We're going to see some spots that likely in excess of another foot of rain over the next couple of days before this is done. It's not just here across the southern Gulf, but a lot of this moisture is going to get pulled up right here in towards the Mississippi River Valley and Ohio River Valley, and get ready for some spots there up to 10 inches of rain this weekend and to the start next week.
10 inches?
Flooding. Yeah, so.
Well, that's kind of serious.
Where's it going to go?
Well, I said 20 inches earlier. It's already really serious. Another 10 inches. So a lot of people in big threat right here.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rick.
You bet.
Thanks. At 11 minutes after the hour, we're going to tell you about some other stories making headlines, starting with this Fox News alert. A police officer is dead after being shot during a traffic stop in Hatch, New Mexico. 33-year-old officer Jose Chavez was shot in the neck by the passenger in a stopped car with 2 other men inside. The suspects then sped off at more than 100 miles an hour before stopping to allegedly steal another car and shooting its driver. They finally surrendered after police blew out the tires of that stolen car. Just awful. 2 other suspects were later arrested after taking off on foot. The carjacking victim who was shot is being treated, but his condition is unknown. The officer, who had been with the department for 2 years, died after surgery. In another Fox News alert now, a major twist in a story that's captivated America.
The disappearance of Teresa Halbach remains a mystery.
This is really strange. What's going on here?
Did you watch this? You remember, probably a lot of you did. It's a Netflix series, Making a Murderer. Well, a judge in Wisconsin just overturned the 2007 conviction of 26-year-old Brendan Dassey. Remember, he was just 17 years old when he was found guilty of helping his uncle Stephen Avery rape and murder Teresa Halbach, a photographer for Auto Trader magazine. Well, Dassey has confessed to the crimes on camera, but this morning a federal judge has ruled that the controversial confession was coerced by investigators and he should be retried or released.
Honesty here, Brendan, is the thing that's going to help you. Okay, no matter what you did, we can work through that. Okay, we can't make any promises, but we'll stand behind you no matter what you did.
Disgusting.
Dassey could be freed within the next 90 days. I watched a couple of those.
Oh, I watched the whole thing. It was captivating. Being force-fed answers. That poor kid, 9 years of his life behind bars because of that.
He seemed eager to give them the story they wanted.
All right, coming up here on the show, a high-speed pursuit comes to a dramatic end. A truck being chased for an hour is crushed at an intersection. Holy smokes. So why were the cops going after this guy?
And first it was Hillary's emails, thousands of them, and now the feds reportedly investigating the Clinton Foundation. Will the result be different this time? We've got the very latest on breaking news from Clinton World. Stay tuned. More drama from Hillary World. A new investigation apparently underway, which may be involving charges against the Clinton Foundation. Will it be different from the investigation into her email that we just watched?
Well, here to react, former Deputy Assistant Director of Counterterrorism Division of the FBI, Terry Turchi. Terry, nice to see you this morning. So to Tucker's question there at the beginning, how will this be different than the email investigation?
Well, there's several differences, Clayton and Tucker. One, of course, is that the email investigation, the first one, involved violations of the espionage statute. And in particular, as Mr. Comey explained to us both before Congress and in that talk he gave that day he announced all of this, it pretty much centered on the idea of gross negligence and mishandling classified information. This is different in that this involves violations of the criminal statutes involving corruption, and you could look at a vast range of charges here. You could look at banking transaction type charges, campaign financing type charges, and violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. The other major difference here is that in the one case, we talked about the emails. They were the case. In this instance, the emails might very well have the content that helps make the case. As opposed to the first email case, this is a series of crimes that involve specific intent. So they're going to have to dig pretty deep here to determine whether or not the activities that we're hearing about involve such type of intent and actually cross the line.
So a lot of observers I know of this are raising eyebrows over the involvement of Preet Bharara. He's the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and a very tough character who's been very hard on Wall Street. I heard someone say yesterday, if I were being investigated, this is not the guy I'd want doing the investigation. I'd be afraid. How do you assess that?
Well, I'll tell you, I think that these investigations are best placed in the field, and if you want to do this kind of investigation, the New York office and Pete Bahar and those kinds of places are where to be, because you have relationships established there. Whether you're in D.C. or anywhere, you're going to have assistant U.S. attorneys and U.S. attorneys working closely with agents. They've worked with them before, and there'll be very blunt and very candid conversations, and they'll be happening every day. And I think we can be pretty sure that if there's anything here, they're going to get to the bottom of it. And it's kind of one of those things where you have all of these allegations. You want to try to find out if there's anything substantive there. And I kind of like to remind people, though, in anything like this, and what you said earlier, Tucker, was very important. Our ability to believe in democracy and trust our government depends upon how these things turn out and what people are doing. And I think back to Watergate. You know, everybody said that started with a second-rate burglary. And by the end of the day, over 40 people had been convicted. Right. A number of the people around the president had been sent to jail. And it all involved campaign-type violations.
Terry Turchi.
It's a good point.
Great analysis this morning. We appreciate you joining us. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you both.
Coming up next, the U.S. Marines now looking for a few good women. We'll tell you what that means.
And the NFL tells the Dallas Cowboys they can't honor fallen officers with a helmet decal. Is that fair, or is it just a sticker? Fair and balanced debate coming up next.
Welcome back. We've got some quick headlines for you, starting with a win in the fight against terror. An American drone strike has killed a top ISIS leader, Hafiz Khan, in Afghanistan. The State Department considered Khan a global terrorist. He once worked with the Taliban. Now he is dead. And the United States Marines looking for a few good women. Recruiters now turning to girls in high school sports teams to find physically qualified candidates. They're starting this campaign, they say, because they're having a hard time finding women who qualify under the standards required for men. Of course, there are different standards required for male and female Marines. Anna?
All right, Tucker, thanks so much. At 24 minutes after the hour, we're talking about America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, seeking to honor our fallen police officers killed in an attack last month and across the country with a helmet decal this season. But the NFL says no. Well, some are praising the decision, saying the arm-in-arm decals could open a political door for special interest groups. So does this decision seem fair or a total foul? Here to discuss is Tamara Holder, Fox News contributor and host of Sports Court. Also, Chris Valletta, entrepreneur and former NFL player and the author of Teamworks. Good morning. Thanks for coming on. Chris, you think that this is good or bad?
So, look, I think they should be wearing the decals. I mean, come on. There's been, in modern times, there's no group more prime position to have an impact for the betterment of social change than the NFL, the National Football League. This is a little bit ridiculous. You've got a major local issue with the municipality and the murder of 5 police officers. You've got arguably the country's most popular NFL team who's local, who want to honor the local police officers who defend everything. They should be allowed to wear the decals. It's a little bit ridiculous.
And the police officers, they were all killed. You know, most of us were having barbecues poolside the week of the 4th of July, and those families are mourning. The local community is really mourning. But it happened at a peaceful Black Lives Matter protest. Would that alienate that movement, Tamara?
Yeah, I think that, look, the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They're a business. And for somebody to come in, or a group of people to come in who work for a company and say, I want you to allow me to wear a decal on my uniform, it's absolutely preposterous. And I just want to know if people who think that the Cowboys should be doing this also would think that it's okay for the Chicago Bears to wear a decal for Laquan McDonald or Paul O'Neill, 2 people who've been killed recently or allegedly killed by the Chicago police officers unjustly. And so I think that in order for the NFL to stay out of this, they should make sure that they don't support one issue or another.
Well, and to that point, there have been instances where statements have been made. For example, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You see all of the players are wearing their pink socks and gloves and all that. Also, in memory of Redskins Sean Taylor, he was murdered in 2007. In memory of Cardinals Pat Tillman, killed in Afghanistan in 2004. And for the Iran hostages in 1981. One more example, Denver decal for victims of gunfire and wildfires for 2012. the Aurora shootings, and then also there for the wildfires, and then for 9/11. So it has been done in the past.
There's precedent, obviously, and again, I think this is just another instance where a situation is being politicized way beyond what it should be. This is a Dallas community issue. It's obviously become a national issue, and it is a national issue, but it really affects the local market. And the Dallas Cowboys, on their own initiative, with Jerry Jones, wanted to honor the police officers. Those cops work in the stadiums. They work in the local communities. They're connected to those people. They wanted to honor those people, and they wanted to honor it in a way where a lot of other people would see that decal and maybe Google arm in arm and actually get involved, and maybe the NFL could take a position and stand up for something. I think they fumbled, pardon the pun, this one, and I absolutely think it's just ridiculous. I mean,
Tamara, what do you think the fans want? What do you think they want from the NFL in this situation?
I think it's split. I think it's split just like we are here, just like our audience, I'm sure, is split on what they think is appropriate for the NFL to do. And that is exactly why the NFL must stay out of this, because it's too political. For the breast cancer awareness, it's an issue that isn't political. For Pat Tillman, he was a member of the team. And in Colorado with the Broncos, it was 4,167 wildfires throughout the state. One of the members of the team, Ben Garland, his home was actually damaged by the wildfire. So this was a nationwide, statewide issue.
But the community,
I don't understand that.
But it is. It's so unfortunate that it has become that way. It is. It really is. Guys, thank you for coming on. 28 minutes after the hour on a Saturday morning, you have the right to remain bilingual. Soon, cops may have to read criminals their Miranda rights in Spanish. Plus, a new poll shows more Americans feel their way of life is being threatened, and that includes a key group of voters called security moms. We will ask some of those moms when they join us live, coming up next.
Truth, unlike Biden's office. I don't believe this for a second.
You don't?
Of course. Lady Gaga, Adele, are you kidding? If you were going to get a hold of Joe Biden's iPad or pod, it would be exclusively Dean Martin.
Dean Martin?
It would be all Dean Martin. Maybe a little Wayne Newton, but it would be mostly Dean Martin.
I think it'd be all Jackson 5 songs. Friends@foxnews.com. You can email us. I don't know. I think
besides Taylor Swift, who's on yours summer playlist?
Summer, fall, spring, winter. Usually Grateful Dead.
Just all Grateful Dead all the time.
Yeah, I like bluegrass too.
Yeah.
How about you?
I don't know. I just listen to everything. So jazz and, mix it up with everything. Steely Dan, little Steely Dan, Sting. What about you?
Whatever's
you're the
hot on
dance
the radio. Yeah, whatever.
She knows every top 40 song right now. I'm like, how do you know this already?
It's impressive.
It really is.
All right, 34 minutes after the hour, on to some other stories that are making headlines. We'll start with this. New details on the United States' so-called ransom payment to Iran. A top DOJ official named as one of many people who objected to the $400 million cash drop. At the same time, Tehran released several Americans being held as prisoners. The Wall Street Journal reports that John Carlin, head of the National Security Division, thought it might look too much like a ransom payment. The White House maintains it was part of a larger settlement. And a surprise ending for a suspected thief in a high-speed chase. Watch this driver in Texas dodging police, whipping in and out of traffic for nearly an hour with both front tires blown off. Well, finally, the suspect, speeding through a red light, gets T-boned by a car carrying a woman and her 4 kids. They ended up with minor injuries. The driver of the truck was hospitalized and then jailed. Miranda rights delivered in Spanish. Well, Texas attorneys are now pushing for a standardized Spanish version of the warning. They say it's because officers have been given different translations where important meanings of words are being lost in translation, leading to confusion and cases being overturned. Hillary or Trump? One late firefighter happily avoided both, according to his hilarious obituary. Wow, this is interesting. William Ziegler's family writes this. Ziegler escaped his mortal realm. We think he did it on purpose to avoid having to make a decision in the pending presidential election. Ziegler then spent 25 years with the New Orleans Fire Department until he, quote, suddenly realized that running away from burning buildings made more sense than running toward them. And those are the news headlines. Because they're some
he died
somehow.
rather than vote. That's kind of dark, actually.
Rick Reichmuth is a dark man. He is...
How about that intro? Especially for Bass Pro.
Bass Pro's back. Hey, guys, have we ever named this guy?
No, but it's Gary, the Grizzly.
I know. Gary?
Yeah,
Gary the
Gary.
Grizzly. All right, you just named it. Nicely done. Gary, welcome back.
Bear with us.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Oh.
Bass Pro Shops is here. It's always the best morning when they're here. Not the best morning across a lot of the South. Take a look at the weather maps. Let me show you what's going on. We've had this system that's been plaguing the Gulf really all week long. It has very slowly drifted off towards the central Gulf, and this has been the bullseye the last 36 hours or so. Some spots have seen over 20 inches of rain, and we have record flooding in Louisiana. It's a place that gets a lot of rain and gets a lot of flooding, and when you have record flooding, it tells you how big this is. All of this moisture is going to be pulled around a high-pressure system that's been plaguing the East Coast and bringing these baking hot temperatures and humidity. And on the western periphery of that, it's going to bring all the rain up there. So we're going to see flooding, I think, this weekend into this week across parts of Mississippi River Valley and in towards the Ohio River Valley. So get ready. Parts of Arkansas over towards southern Indiana and Illinois and Ohio this week. We're going to see a lot of moisture. All right. It's also hot and humid. Take a look at what happens throughout the day today across the eastern seaboard. These are feels like temperatures, so factoring the heat with the humidity, and it is going to feel like around 110 again for all the big cities along the I-95 corridor. That is with us again for the day tomorrow, unfortunately. All right, Clayton, we'll send it inside to you.
All right, do we have a name for that bear? We'll figure it out. Thanks, Rick. Gary the bear. Well, the American way of life under threat. That's what many voters are saying. In these new polls that we were showing you, Monmouth University asked Americans how much they feel that their way of life is being threatened right now. A whopping 47% said they feel their way of life is being threatened. A great deal. Another 61% saying Islamic terrorists currently threaten their lives. 61%. In fact, concerns like these have given rise to a voting bloc known as Security Moms, the all-important voting bloc, Security Moms. Here now to address these concerns are Beth, Kathy, Deborah, and Nell. They're all sitting with us this morning. Nice to see all of you this morning.
Thank you. for having us here.
So you saw some of those recent polls, and I want to try to play the contrarian view off the top, which we're recently hearing about wages going up. The White House saying over the past 8 years, we've actually gotten safer. Wages finally starting to go up a little bit. Gas prices at their lowest point, record lows right now. It's not the 1970s. We are actually safer. What do you think about that? Beth?
Well, I disagree. I do not think that we're safer. I think that the number one issue, especially in this year's election, is going to be national security. I believe that all people or groups that are opposed to the values that are inherent in our Constitution are a threat to our American way of life. And I certainly believe that Americans are kind of in denial about that. And in this election, I believe Clinton and the liberals are in denial that the Islamic State is actually a threat to our American way of life.
When you look at the two candidates, Kathy, when you think about these two candidates, Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State in the White House, in the Situation Room, that's been her argument. She's the right person to lead us internationally. Donald Trump. Between those two candidates right now, who strikes a chord with you?
Clearly, Donald Trump. And with Hillary, yes, she does have the experience, but I think that's one of the things that the majority of American people are rebelling against. We don't want the same politicians. And under Hillary, we also have the reset button that didn't work out so well for any of us. And not only that, but she has a tremendous number of scandals that continues to come out. And those things, we cannot pretend that those things do not exist and that they do not give us some sense of who she's going to be like if she becomes president.
Now, are we safer now than we were 8 years ago, according to the White House?
Are we safer now than we were? No, I don't think so. I mean, look what's happened in France over the past few months. I definitely don't feel safer than I did 8 years ago.
What about your family? How do you talk about these issues at the dinner table?
Yeah.
How does it affect you personally?
I'm a psychotherapist, so I am very careful about how much my children get to watch the news. There's so much violence going on, not only abroad, but in our own country. And so I work very carefully to make sure that they get information, if they can, through me first before they hear it on the school bus in the morning.
Deborah, we see these polls, this Monmouth University poll, that your way of life is under threat. 61%. Do you feel that way?
Absolutely.
Why?
We're at a time where lawlessness is abounding. I mean, just in our own country alone, since 9/11 up until recently Orlando, how can we say that we are safer? I mean, this warfare that is being fought, we're fighting an ideological warfare of Islamic extremists. So how do you fight that? And which presidential candidate is best equipped in understanding the nature of this war and what truly fuels the hatred in the name of their God that they're serving, these Islamic extremists?
It's so fascinating to hear you speak about this, because I remember, 8 years ago we were talking about gas prices, and those are the things that really drove the conversation. Now we're talking about ISIS and cops being killed. You guys are going to join us a little bit later in the show. We're going to dive a little deeper into this. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coming up here on the show, the mainstream media considered this a top issue in the 2008 campaign. Listen.
Is McCain simply too old to get elected?
If it's John McCain's health we're talking about, and he's running for the highest office in the land, his health, with limits, becomes the public business.
How concerned are doctors that this skin cancer may in fact return?
Well, this time around, are they giving Hillary Clinton the same treatment on age? Dr. Mark Siegel here to diagnose that problem, coming up next. Now, what do you call a foul ball that isn't yours?
Well, during the 2008 campaign, the press jumped up and down over John McCain's age and his health. Do you remember this?
Is McCain simply too old to get elected?
If it's John McCain's health we're talking about, and he's running for the highest office in the land, his health, with limits, becomes the public business.
How concerned are doctors that this skin cancer may in fact return?
That was for a Republican, but it seems there may be a double standard for Democrats. This photo causing some controversy this week of Hillary Clinton being helped up the stairs at a campaign stop in February. Well, now, a new poll says 59% of Americans want presidential candidates to release their medical records. That's a huge jump from 38% back in 2014.
So should we know more about Hillary's health history? Here to discuss, Dr. Mark Siegel of the Fox News Medical A Team. Doc, nice to see you. I know that photo was the catalyst for this discussion, which may be unfair. It's February at a campaign stop, wooden steps, probably ice, so it's probably easy to slip. But absolutely, this double standard, do you think there is a double standard right now in the media?
Because I was there in 2008 with Dr. Gupta, with Carl Cameron, and I was looking through over 1,000 pages of McCain's records, which was an honor, by the way, to look into such a war hero's life. And I thought, we've set a new standard now, because we didn't find anything. It was in a way, a witch hunt. But I thought, here's the new standard. Clayton, if you're approaching 70 and you have a significant medical history, public needs to know that. Needs to be part of the decision. Hillary Clinton released her taxes this week. What about her health record? She's approaching 70, and she has a significant health history. In 2012, she had a severe concussion. Bill Clinton said it took her 6 months to recover from it. She was wearing prism glasses for a while till her vision corrected. Research this year alone has shown that the long-term impact of a severe concussion can be significant, can affect gait, can affect your balance, can affect your thinking process, can affect memory. I want to see what a neurologist had to say about that at the time and after. What tests have been done? And also Donald Trump, by the way, 70 years old. I want to see his full medical records, not just a letter from his physician saying he's, in perfect physical condition.
So there's a long history of politicians lying about their health and getting away with it. Obviously, President Kennedy lied about it. His doctors did. That's right. FDR did. Paul Tsongas did. In the 92 campaign, so why should
President Nixon was on different medications? Exactly. We've seen this again.
Why shouldn't we demand to see every real candidate's medical history, real medical history?
It's very relevant. Our last two presidents have been very fit. I can tell you, President Bush, incredibly fit. President Obama fit as well. So maybe we're getting into the habit of not thinking about this. But as a practicing internist, I want to see the records in this case. Both of these candidates are pushing. He's 70, she's almost 69. And I want to see the records.
And people want an energetic president, don't they? I mean, isn't that why President Obama runs up and down the stairs of Air Force One, and we saw President Bush out on his mountain bike all the time?
Absolutely.
How important
mountain biking cabinet he had. He had a mountain biking cabinet on the weekends.
Yeah, well, and you actually went out there and did some stories with him on your bike as well. How important is their health to leading our country for 4 years, potentially 8 years?
Well, I think we need to know the risks, Anna. Here's what I mean by that. Secretary Clinton is on lifetime Coumadin. That's a blood thinner. That's because she had the blood clot on the outside of her brain. That's not a reason she can't serve, but that's something the public probably should be aware of because of the risk of falling, because of needing to monitor it. So I think it's full disclosure. I think it has to do with transparency. I think the candidates need to be transparent so that we know what their health is, not just what their taxes are. I'm not saying that she can't serve, and I'm not saying she's not fit. I'm saying I need more information. And by the way, a letter from an internist massaging things or summarizing things is not the same thing as the official legal medical record.
Doctors shouldn't do that. They should not participate in propaganda, I don't think. On either side. I'm against
Fit
it.
to be president is not what a physician should be saying.
I agree.
Doctor, thanks so much. Great to see you this morning. All right, coming up here on the show, it was the foul ball seen around the country. This fan goes for a foul ball and ends up with a face full of nachos and salsa. We're going to talk to that fan when we come back.
Went for the catch. Oh, my.
He did it to himself. Wow. Nachos. Face full of nachos and cheese and salsa.
Oh, nacho ordinary day at the ballpark. One fan at a Pittsburgh Pirates game this week went for a foul ball only to end up with a face full of cheese and salsa. But he's lived to tell the tale.
Corey Heineman was the fan from that video, and he joins us now. And we've brought you on so we can humiliate you some more.
Good morning,
Just
Corey.
kidding. Good morning. We love your shirt, Nacho Daddy 16. So you're running for office now, huh?
Yeah, this is from the company in Las Vegas. They told me next time I'm out there I get free nachos every time I go out there. So
wow. So you get a lifetime of free nachos out of it. So what exactly happened?
I was coming back to my seat from the concession stands. I had a brand new plate of nachos and a beer, and I was looking down at my seat, and the next thing I know, everyone's yelling that the ball's coming. So I look up, and by that point, it seemed like it was right in front of my face. And I've always wanted to catch a foul ball, so I just reached out as far as I could, went for it, and it tipped my fingers, and you saw what happened after that, I guess.
You're in a lose-lose situation there. I mean, what are you going to do? Because you've got both hands are taken, a ball's coming right for you. What are you going to do? Do you have it land in the nachos or do you have it land in the beer?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't even have time to even think that far. It's like, I can have a nacho and beer anywhere, and that was my only chance at a foul ball.
Just ducked at that point.
Yeah.
Get out of the way, save yourself.
While you're around there, it looks like a lot of people are helping you. They're bringing you rags and drinks, and then you ended up getting some free food out of it, like you said. But did you know that everybody at home was watching you too? That you were getting a lot of attention from the TV box?
I didn't at first. When I was walking to get my replacement nachos, one of the cameramen called me over, and he kind of gave me a little bit of background on it and showed me the video. And then throughout the game, I saw some people down front kind of trying to sneak some cell phone pictures of me, and I thought that was kind of weird. And then some people, when they were leaving, told me I was trending on Twitter, and that's when I kind of started figuring it out.
So you paid a high price for this, not least because you lost your nachos and the beer. Did you get the foul ball?
No, I didn't. They gave me a ball, but not the foul ball.
Well, whoever the bum is that kept the ball and didn't give it to you, we're going to find him for you.
A concession foul ball.
You can see him in the video. He's wearing a red hat. I don't know who he is, but he's in there.
Corey Heineman, brave guy. You look cleaner now. It's great to see you. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Corey joining us after a nice shower. We appreciate it, Nacho Daddy. And we're going to try our hand at some difficult catches later in the show.
It's going to be so fun.
We're going to be hitting some foul balls out on the plaza, holding different items.
Kind of recreating the moment.
Right.
It's what you call a tease.
Well, life is hard. We're not the president. Just ask the Clintons.
You have no reason to remember, but we came out of the White House not only dead broke, but in debt.
Yeah, dead broke. Well, $250 million later, they're fine, and their tax returns tell a story.
Hey friends, good morning. It's Saturday the 13th of August, 2016. I'm Anna Koyman. This is Fox and Friends Weekend in a Fox News alert. Deep trouble in the Deep South. The state of emergency declared as deadly flooding and heavy rains soak Louisiana, and the threat is far from over.
And then another brutal attack on the Democratic Party. Some of the documents come straight from Nancy Pelosi's computer. Whoa! We'll tell you what they found coming up.
And then the new movie Sausage Party getting blasted by the critics.
Whoops.
What they said about bread. That's right. And condiments as well. Fox and Friends Hour 2 starts right now.
hearing
relevant
set.
to what you've been hearing, right?
We've got a Fox News alert for you this morning. There's been another hack on the Democratic Party. This time, hundreds of personal phone numbers and emails of House members have been released.
Well, the hacker, known as Guccifer 2.0, taking responsibility.
Garrett Tenney live in Washington, D.C. to break down all of these breaking details. Good morning, Garrett.
Tucker, Ann, and Clayton, good morning. You know, this is the same hacker or group of hackers that posted emails and documents from the DNC just a few months ago. Last night, Guccifer 2.0 released documents that it claims to have stolen from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. That's the committee that raises money and helps elect congressional Democrats. These documents include the personal contact information for 193 current and former House Democrats, their personal emails, cell phones, and home addresses. Included in the spreadsheet is House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer. Now, when the Wall Street Journal reached him over the number that was listed in those leaked documents, he said it was the first time he'd heard about it and that a lot of people are probably going to be changing their cell phone numbers very soon. The DCCC confirmed the cyber attack back in July and is now cooperating with federal investigators. In a statement, a spokesperson says, "We are aware of reports that documents claimed to be from our network have been released and are investigating their authenticity." This is only the latest in a string of cyber attacks on the Democratic Party, which has raised concerns among U.S. security officials that outside groups or governments could be trying to interfere in U.S. elections. Intelligence officials believe that previous cyber attacks on the DNC and DCCC were likely carried out by hackers affiliated with the Russian government. Guccifer 2.0, though, denies it has any connection to any government. Back to you.
All right, Garrett Tenney live for us this morning. Thanks, Garrett.
Thanks, Garrett.
Well, the question this morning, anytime we have these stories emerge, there's always a question as to whether or not the media will cover them. Is there a double standard if something happens to the Trump campaign and we were to get all of these emails or access to all of these emails? Would the media cover it one way and they cover the Hillary Clinton email scandal separately?
That's a rhetorical question because Trump is bad, Trump is scary. So Bill Clinton was giving a speech yesterday in the state of Nevada, and he was asked, this was before an Asian Journalists Association, what about these Hillary emails, the ones that the director of the FBI, James Comey, attacked her for? What do you make of that? And here's what the former president said.
First of all, the FBI director said, when he testified before Congress, he had to amend his previous day's statement that she had never received any emails marked classified. They saw two little notes with a C on it. This is the biggest load of bull I ever heard.
Biggest load of bull he's ever heard.
Well, it's something that they are still having to fight off, right? I mean, it's still part of the conversation. They don't want to be talking about it, so what are they doing instead? Well, many are saying that the timing is a little bit curious. Hillary Clinton has released her tax returns, and so is
last night
has Kane, and some are saying she's trying to distract from the email.
Well, you know, you're entitled to your own opinion about things, and he's entitled to defend his wife. You're not entitled to your own set of facts, however, and the fact is that the FBI director, James Comey, in a televised press conference, stated that Hillary Clinton sent over 100 emails that were marked classified at the time they were sent. Now, he said that. Did he take it back? No, he didn't. So he's got to be watching this and thinking, talk about a load of bull. Like, what the heck? That's just not true.
And then that's just one investigation. We're learning this morning, according to the Daily Caller, 3 separate field office investigations by the FBI now looking at Hillary Clinton's connection and the Clinton Foundation connection, whether or not there were pay-to-play scandals, whether or not you fly over, Bill Clinton gives a speech in Dubai, and then suddenly we have a cozy meeting with the State Department right after Bill Clinton gives a speech. So that's the other brewing scandal at this hour right now.
Right, and Trump's campaign has released this statement from, this is from Jason Miller. They say, Hillary Clinton has turned over the only records nobody wants to see from her. The American public wants to see the 33,000 emails she deleted. We want to see the Clinton Foundation records showing how the Clintons sold our uranium to Russia. We want to see the pay-for-play emails. We want to see the transcripts of the Wall Street speeches Clinton was paid $10,000 a minute to give. So they're pointing their fingers at one another.
Yeah, so Trump hasn't released his tax returns, so they're trying to say it doesn't matter, you release your tax returns. I actually am glad they released their tax returns. I learned a ton of interesting stuff. Among the facts in these returns, Bill Clinton has taken $16.5 million from a single private education company, mostly for work abroad. But here's the fact that stuck in my mind. He was an honorary participant in this company, and he received $16.5 million.
Well,
really?
he really needed to, because they were dead
work?
broke when they got out of the White House. Remember when she was pushing her book, Hard Choices or Tough Choices?
Right.
And she was out doing all kinds of interviews on television. She may regret this one because this soundbite has gotten played over and over and over for the last couple of years. Listen.
You have no reason to remember, but we came out of the White House not only dead broke, but in debt. We had no money when we got there, and we struggled to, piece together the resources for mortgages, for houses, for Chelsea's education. It was not easy.
That's the most entitled human being on planet Earth right there. She has earned, with her husband, more than $250 million in the last 15 years selling influence. And there she is lecturing us about her poverty. It's really unbelievable. I mean, look, it's one thing to say, look, we cashed in on the fact that my husband was president. We made $250 million since then giving speeches. But no, it's we were broke. How dare you question
everyone
us?
knows these politicians do this, right? They serve a few years and they write a book, then they go into the private sector, they get consulting gigs, they make way more money after they've had that
But $250 million? I mean, at some point you have to say, like, what does greed mean? What's the definition of greed? I don't know. I'm all for people making money.
Maybe she was grasping at straws a little bit. Actually, let's break it down.
Yeah, so this year, to Tucker's point, since 2001, $238 million. But then here's the year of 2015, just this past year, the taxable income. She made $10 million last year with a federal tax rate of 34.2%. Her liability on that was $3.6 million, and she earned $6.7 million in speeches over the past year.
I don't know. If she were a corporate executive, Marissa Mayer, didn't do much for Yahoo, I noticed, and yet she's getting tens of millions of dollars in severance. I think that's appalling. Okay, I'm not going to defend that, even though I'm pro-markets. Why would anybody defend this? Like, what's the actual explanation for continuing to rake in mindlessly massive amounts of money? Like, to what end?
Well, some of the other
why are they doing this?
We were talking about earlier in her tax returns, the idea that you can donate to charity, but the charity ends up being the Clinton Foundation. I love that part of it, too. Like, you can donate to your own charity.
Well, they do believe in their own cause. If you had your own charity,
but
you'd probably donate.
I agree with you.
Too.
I agree with you on that. I totally agree with you.
But what's the cause? What does their charity do?
Well,
exactly.
They
so the
educate
10%. Well, my point is that
medicate people who are in need around the world.
Right. But I don't think they've actually paid for any medication for anybody. I think they facilitate that. I mean, there was a New York Times piece on the Clinton Foundation asking, what exactly do they do for the poor? They get other people to pay, but have they ever given direct grants to anybody?
Right, and my point is only 10% they looked at. Only 10% actually goes to the cause. Most of it's for flights. Most of it's for the infrastructure. So you're donating money to the Clinton Foundation. 90% of it goes to, I don't know, speeches.
Wow, that's a massive percentage if that's right.
Yeah, I think so.
Good grief.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are following some other stories in this extreme weather, really rattling a lot of folks, especially down in Louisiana, now under a state of emergency after heavy downpours led to severe flooding.
Torrential rain already claiming the life of 2 people. Dozens also had to be rescued from waist-high water surrounding their homes, including this one, where several bystanders are being called heroes this morning after an elderly driver washed off the road and they rescued him.
I just told him, don't panic. I'm here for you. I'm going to get you out these waters. I'm going to rescue you.
Rick Reichmuth joins us now with what to expect today. More on the way, I guess, Rick.
Yeah,
right?
there is a lot more rain today, in fact, and this flooding that we're seeing is record-breaking. Some of the rivers crested well above their highest ever level across southern Louisiana. When you think about some of the rainstorms, hurricanes and such that have been there, this is really a significant event. Take a look at the maps. Let me show you what's going on. There is a system. It's just not moving is the problem, and there's a lot of tropical moisture that's down across the Gulf. It's hot, it's humid, you get the idea, but that's the moisture source for this, and when it doesn't budge, then it just rains in the same spot, and that's been going on for about 36 hours now. Some spots well over 20 inches of rain in that time, and that's what has caused this massive flooding. Primarily, it's been just to the west of New Orleans, although New Orleans also has had incredible amounts of rain, but the heaviest have been just to the west and to the north of it, and we have a lot more rain to fall over the next couple of days. We're going to see some spots probably over a foot of rain, of additional rain, on what is on top of what has already fallen. So we're not out of this by any means. That moisture is going to pull farther towards the north over the next couple of days as well. So flash flooding, a big possibility from Arkansas all the way up to western PA as we move through the next couple of days. Anywhere to the east of that also baking under these high temperatures and the humidity. All right, guys, send it back to you inside.
Well, thanks a million. Rick Reichmuth standing by. Up ahead, more email troubles for Hillary Clinton. Newly released messages link her foundation to the State Department in ways that are uncomfortable at best. Our next guest, the widow of a Benghazi victim, Ty Woods, says it's more proof of her inability to lead this country. She joins us next.
And moms, have you ever felt like doing this? A mother jumps for joy as her kids go back to school, all of them back together this morning to join us live.
She's free!
Right? Pay for play. And it's horrifying. It's horrifying. Our government is for sale.
Donald Trump there accusing Hillary Clinton of pay for play during her tenure at the State Department, claiming her behavior was illegal. This after emails released by the conservative group Judicial Watch shed light on ties between the State Department and the Clinton Foundation. And that's not the only Clinton scandal that Americans are questioning. They're questioning her ability to lead overall. Joining us now is Dr. Dorothy Woods, a Navy veteran and the widow of former Navy SEAL Ty Woods, killed in the Benghazi attacks. Dorothy, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me this morning.
And in general, we've seen another Clinton scandal over the past few days unfold, the latest with the Clinton Foundation and a number of probes now at different FBI locations across the country looking into this. Does this surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me. I think that as a voter, it's just another example of how as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton continued to operate under the attitude of rules that apply to everybody else don't apply to me. We've seen this with her emails and setting up her server. We see this now with questionable relationships of her foundation and its influence on her decisions as Secretary of State. You know, in my case, the committee, the Select Committee on Benghazi, had shown that she had negligence in judgment. And despite what her husband, President Clinton, has said about the comments of FBI Director James Comey, he pretty much summarized that she had negligence in judgment as well. So do we really want this woman as our next president? No.
If you listen to the former president, Bill Clinton, out on the campaign trail yesterday, he says, look, this is just the typical Republican witch hunt. This is the media going after Hillary Clinton. She should be prepared for it. That this is a load of bull, to quote the former president. What do you say to the former president?
Well, he's doing his job as a husband and as a Democrat. They are very good at sugarcoating her mistakes and making her look like the best candidate. And, you know, you can't really argue with facts. You can't really argue with emails. So, you know, I don't fault him for defending her. But, you know, the facts are there. And, you know, a lot of her behavior looks suspicious.
What is the most important issue in this election for you, and who do you support?
The most important issue for me in this election really comes down to national security and leadership. Because I am a veteran, I come from a family of veterans, and obviously because of Ty and his sacrifice in Benghazi, national security is very important to me. And I think that Donald Trump, who I do support and who I will vote for, is not afraid to say, you know, what are our deficits? What are our problems? He's not afraid to identify radical Islam as a big one, both domestically and abroad. And to me, combating that is one of the most important things.
All right, Dorothy Woods, widow of Benghazi hero Ty Woods, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, coming up here on the show, speaking of Donald Trump, he's shrugging off new polls that show him trailing Hillary Clinton by big numbers. How concerned should he be? Our panel of pollsters here to dive into those numbers next. And the new movie Sausage Party getting blasted by the critics, not because it's a bad movie, but because the talking potatoes may offend the eye.
Start with this Fox News alert. A police officer is dead after being shot during a traffic stop in Hatch, New Mexico. 33-year-old officer Jose Chavez was shot in the neck by the passenger in a stopped car with two other men inside. All three suspects were later arrested after a high-speed chase. The officer, who had been with the department for 2 years, died after surgery. And another Fox News alert, a major twist in a story that captivated America.
The disappearance of Teresa Halbach remains a mystery.
This is really strange. What's going on here?
Did you watch this? I watched a couple of them. Remember the Netflix series Making a Murderer? Well, a judge in Wisconsin just overturned the 2007 conviction of 26-year-old Brendan Dassey. Remember, he was just 17 years old when he was found guilty of helping his uncle Stephen Avery rape and murder Teresa Halbach, a photographer for Auto Trader magazine. Dassey has confessed to the crimes on camera, but this morning, a federal judge has ruled that controversial confession was coerced by investigators and he should be retried or released.
is going to help you. Okay, no matter what you did, we can work through that. Okay, we can't make any promises, but we'll stand behind you no matter what you did.
She told me not to do it.
What does Steve do then?
Told me I did a good job.
Okay, I'm just going to come out and ask you, who shot her in the head?
He did.
So the new development, Dassey could be freed within the next 90 days. Tucker, over to you with more politics.
Thanks a million, Anna. Well, Donald Trump has been shrugging off polls that have him trailing Hillary Clinton.
Having a tremendous problem in Utah. Now, Utah is a different place, and I don't know if is anybody here from Utah? I mean, it's. I didn't think so. Pennsylvania's a little further off, but I think we're going to win Pennsylvania because the miners. She wants the miners out of business. She wants steel out of business.
So is Trump seeing something in the polls that the rest of us are not? And what is the state of play in this race for real? Joining us now with the answer, Cliff Young, he's president of Ipsos Public Affairs, Emily Eakin, she's director of polling at the Cato Institute, and Dr. John Johnson, a polling expert and author of Every Data. It's great to see you all. So first to you, John. What is the state of play, and what should we be looking at? We're bombarded by polls. What's the poll the average person ought to be looking at to see where the race really is?
Well, right now, Hillary Clinton is ahead. The averages are about 8.5 points, depending. If you're a little bit careful about some of the outlier polls that are driving the average, there's been a long narrative about state polls now coming out. A lot of the key states are all tilting towards Hillary Clinton, so right now it's safe to say Hillary Clinton is in the lead, but it is still early and events could intervene.
So here's, Emily, one of the most recent polls. I don't know if it's an outlier or not. It's a Rasmussen poll, and it's a national one, head-to-head, 43 Clinton, 40 Trump. That's within 3 points. I think it's the margin of error. Is that where the race really is?
I don't think it is. I think that what you really want to do is average a couple of polls together, look at the entire week worth of polls rather than just one poll.
Right.
And when you do that, the average is actually around 6 to 7 points with Hillary Clinton in the lead. Also, if you look at the battleground states, Hillary Clinton is leading in almost all of them, and states that shouldn't be in play, like Arizona and Georgia, are.
So historically, polls taken in mid to late August, are they predictive of the final result?
Well, they're saying something. They're indicative. They're indicative about the relative performance. And obviously, Donald Trump had a really bad 2 weeks.
Yes.
Now, they really firm up after the debates. And, you know, I bet my farm 2 weeks out. That's when they're really robust. But they're saying something today.
Okay, so 2 weeks out before the election.
Yes.
So has there ever been an election in modern history where the polls 2 weeks out didn't predict the outcome?
Not that I'm aware. I mean, there's obviously the Truman, if you call it back then. But since then, right, I mean, it's pretty rare after
Bush
that.
score.
I mean, Bush score was still close, right? But other than that, you know, usually by the time you get there on average, yeah, you're pretty close. As we get closer and closer, I agree, we're going to be much more confident in those results. But right now, there's a pretty wide lead.
So, Emily, you're hearing people say, well, a lot of the voters in question here haven't voted before. It's hard to predict their behavior. This is an anomaly, this election. Is that a fair analysis?
It's possible. We definitely see some soft support for Donald Trump, and we do see the shy Trump voter as well in polls. And what I mean by that is that some people are a little bit reluctant to admit that they're voting for Donald Trump in the polls, and so it might actually be underestimating his support. That's the only thing that I would say that might be, you know, working in Donald Trump's favor, but probably not, because if you take a bunch of polls, average them together over the course of a week, Hillary Clinton is still in the lead. But there is some good news for Donald Trump that I think is worth bringing into this conversation, which is political scientists have forecasting models where they try to predict the outcome of the election on the basis of the economic fundamentals of the economy, like economic growth and things like that. When they run those models, guess who wins? They find a Republican winning in November. But we're not seeing that materialize in the polls yet. So what that, I think, means is that this is Donald Trump's election to lose.
I agree with
but
that.
It's not materializing yet.
Yeah, interesting. And the reverse Bradley effect, so-called, the idea that it's so embarrassing to say you support Trump that you're going to do it anyway but not tell anyone. How real is that, and is it measurable?
Well, it's really difficult to say. It's really difficult to measure. It could be there. We're not quite sure. Probably people that are shy Trump supporters just won't show up on their election day. And I want to add to what Emily was saying. Yeah, we're on the record, even I'm on the record saying in August last year, this should be a Republican year. It's really his to lose. But what's going on? We have a database of about 600 elections around the world, and about 85% of elections are slam dunks. We know what's going to happen. 15% we call them disruptive elections. And that's when sort of an outsider candidate comes in, an anti-establishment candidate comes in. Usually the public opinion is surly and angry, and that's what we have. That's the scenario we have. The question is he just a spoiler or a game changer? So far, the polls are suggesting he's underperforming versus what he should be doing.
Right. Is this Brexit or the Romney election?
Exactly.
This is the question. All right. Thanks a lot. That was super interesting. Thanks for getting telling us about that. Speaking of the candidates, they both laid out their economic plans this week in some detail. Which one is better for you? We're going to break down the numbers on that coming up. Plus, this photo of an officer's car flipped on its hood is remarkable, but the video of it happening, even more amazing. Guess who has that video? Not to brag, we do. And are you getting ready for your big hunting trip? You ought to be. We're going to help you out. Fall is on the way. That means birds, bears, deer, elk, you name it, you can shoot it. We've got binoculars. Rick
sell guns to ISIS. The simple fact is this. This is a foreign policy critique he's making. It's a typical Trump exaggeration because he knows if you say something like created a vacuum, that's what led to the rise of ISIS. Yeah. That's not something that's going to get reported about. This comment does.
Well, that's the point right there. Obviously, Trump should speak more precisely and stop making this about himself, obviously. On the other hand, the press is too unfair. They're taking I mean, that's just true. Look, I think they have a right to ask Trump tough questions. What do you mean by that? Totally fair. But they are giving Hillary a complete pass. They're acting on her behalf, and they're devaluing their moral authority in doing it.
I think
it's a big mistake.
You know, I take this stance lately with the media. I feel like they're giving Trump a lot of leeway. They ask him these questions. They ask him for clarification all the time because he's imprecise with his words. So they give him these opportunities to not double down and not triple down.
But he did. He
did. Well, that's my point, is they're giving him these outs. Did you really mean? And then he did say, yes, I literally mean. Even Stephen Hayes tweeting this yesterday. I literally mean they're the founder of ISIS. Okay, well, we gave you the opportunity to walk it back.
He can't back down, that's for sure. I just wish that they would apply the same standard to Hillary. So when she says, for example, all white people are privileged and therefore should apologize. It's like, really? If you're an unemployed machinist in Toledo, you're really more privileged than the millionaire, Harvard-educated, African-American president of the United States? Like, that's an insane statement. And not one person called her on it or even noticed it. Really? So just apply the same standard to Hillary.
And Hillary Clinton is a flawed candidate and has a lot of weaknesses that he should be spending his time exposing rather than talking about President Obama and Hillary Clinton being the founders of ISIS because he's having to backtrack. Like, why not just say what you mean? Why not say their failed policies created a vacuum that made conditions ripe for the rise of ISIS, and they underestimated them, calling them the JV team and all of that. But
or spending your time talking about fire marshals in some town that you're stopping on.
I agree with everything you're saying, but the press has a role here too, and that's not to be too unfair. A little bit unfair is fine. You know what I mean? It's a New York Post headline. It's funny. But in the end, you can't openly advocate for a political candidate if you claim to be a journalist, and they are. And it's totally wrong. I'm not defending Trump's imprecision. It annoys me. But holy smokes, if you're like a New York Times reporter, like, get some clarity. Have a moment of reflection. You are working for Hillary. You should not be doing that.
Let us know your thoughts on this. Friends at foxnews.com. You can weigh in on that story this morning.
And we need to get you up to speed on some other stories making headlines like this one. More criticism for Hillary Clinton, this time for comments she made on a podcast about what it takes to wake her up.
I do have my phone, and sometimes if I'm really tired when I, collapse, it's backed up by a real alarm clock.
Do you have like a ringtone that you play what's your alarm?
The most obnoxious sound that I could find on the ringtones.
Like that crazy siren one?
Yeah, exactly.
That podcast series will run through Election Day. And an officer's car is completely flipped onto its roof. We're getting our first look at how this happened. Dashcam video capturing the moments the squad car is T-boned by another car at an intersection, causing it to flip over. There's another view as the Minnesota officer pursues a red light runner when he slammed right into the officer, radioing for help while dangling upside down.
You're slipping upside down. That's your
Yeah, well, the officer had minor injuries and was taken to an area hospital. We hope he's all right. Imagine being greeted by a 300-pound gator inside your own garage. That's exactly what happened to a Texas man. The animal likely just trying to catch some shade on a hot day. Trappers removed the nearly 9-foot beast, not without a fight, though. They're taking it to a gator farm. Tucker.
And Seth Rogen's new animated film Sausage Party is being accused of, needless to say, racism.
Oops.
What country is this? So
we can celebrate our differences and our different foods that we like to eat. Each different. All right. Rick and Clayton, out to you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Well, fall is around the corner. I can't believe it, and it doesn't feel like it. But this is now the time to start planning for your next big camping or hunting trip.
Oh, fall. And Bass Pro Shops holding its annual Fall Hunting Classic show and sale in stores across the country to help get you geared up.
Yeah, here to tell us more about the hottest products and deals is Alan Treadwell of the Redhead Pro Hunting Team. Also, a 2004 alternate on the Olympics team.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about in hunting.
A little bit. You know,
I can't even see you.
I'm camouflaged. We're in the new True Timber. But the Fall Hunting Classic starts today, and it's our biggest event of the year, our biggest hunting event and sale of the year, where you can save a lot of money on all the outdoor products that you may need. Plus, we have free seminars going on, and we even have seminars specifically for women and kids.
So you have a hunting university, and it's targeted to each area specifically?
Exactly.
Archery?
So yeah, you can. There will be archery seminars for sure, but our hunting university actually begins next weekend, August 19th and 21st, and we're going to have local pros, we're going to have national pros coming to a store close to you to do seminars on archery or whatever they're talking about. Those guys are really knowledgeable. You can learn a lot from them, and if you want to find out who's coming to a store near you, or what they're talking about, you can find all the details on our website.
Also, we got to get to trade-ins, because this is something you have a great trade-in program as well. Tell us about that.
We do. So like if you have some old technology binoculars and you're ready to upgrade and get some new ones, all you have to do is bring them to the store, and we're going to give you basically cash for those to put towards the purchase of a new product.
Awesome. So even an old fishing rod or anything like that?
You know, it's going to be bows. We're going to do bows, optics, obviously, game cameras, boots.
So it's targeted at the
targeted at the hunting classic. You can bring in your own boots and get new boots.
All right, you guys have brought a bunch of binoculars. These things are getting really good. They're better than the binoculars we had as kids.
So check these things out. They're obviously waterproof. I mean, these are as good as any $1,000 pair of binoculars on the market right now. And everyday low price at Bass Pro Shops is $4.99. During the Fall Hunting Classic, we got $100 off, $3.99. And if you trade in an old pair of binoculars, we're going to knock another $50 off. You're going to get a $1,000 pair of binoculars for $350.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. You know, these things, I've played with these before. These things are fantastic. All right, we've got some gun safes, too.
So gun safes, you know, there's 4 really good reasons to buy a gun safe. You know, it's going to keep your firearms safe. It's going to help you save money on insurance. Most of them are fire protection of some sort, but they're all going to be theft protection. So this is a Hornady Rapid Safe. So all you got to do is take the little RFD chip, rub it in front of it, and it's going to pop up where you're quick and easy to get to it. Certified child resistant and heavy-duty tamper-proof. But probably my favorite safe is this 1856 collection safe.
Holy cow.
This safe's going to hold up to 23 long guns, all right? It's fire resistant for 60 minutes at 1400 degrees. So it's going to keep whatever you have inside of it safe. It's made out of heavy duty 12 gauge steel. And during the Fall Hunting Classics, if you'll use your Bass Pro MasterCard, we're going to give you $50 off of it.
And so you recommend having more than one person move this when you pick it up?
Oh, absolutely. This is when you're going to have your friends come over to help you move it.
Clayton's volunteering his services for a while. Alan Treadwell.
You're going to be sticking around all morning long. We'll be talking more about it. Thanks so much, Alan. Appreciate it. All right. Tucker, Anna, back inside to you guys.
Any excuse that you can show off those guns, Clayton.
That's right.
43 minutes after the hour. All right, well, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have very different plans for your taxes.
A more progressive, more patriotic tax code that puts American jobs first.
My plan will reduce the current number of brackets from 7 to 3.
Which one is better for your wallet? We will break down the numbers next.
And moms, have you ever felt like doing this? And would you do it on Facebook?
Clinton on infrastructure. Let's watch.
We will work with both parties to pass the biggest investment in new, good-paying jobs since World War II. We will put Americans to work, building and modernizing our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, our railways, our ports, our airports.
And that's something President Obama has said that he would do too.
We've heard a lot about this from several candidates, including Donald Trump, actually. The important thing to remember about infrastructure is infrastructure helps to facilitate economic growth. It helps to facilitate what's going on in the economy, but it is not the source of jobs. The problem here is we're confusing something that helps the economy with something that fundamentally grows the economy. What grows the economy is entrepreneurship, people moving products and services and ideas over those roads and over that broadband. So I think she's expecting too much economic growth and job creation from an infrastructure plan. We've got to be thinking more about entrepreneurship. That's a different question.
And that entrepreneurship is something that Donald Trump says that he wants to protect with tax reform and those job creators. Let's take a listen to this.
Our current tax code is so burdensome and so complex that we waste 9 billion hours a year in tax code compliance. My plan will reduce the current number of brackets from 7 to 3 and dramatically streamline the process.
Is that possible?
It is, yeah. I mean, you can certainly streamline the process. You can certainly reduce the number of brackets. That will help economic growth. The critics will come back with Trump's plan and say these are big tax cuts. They're going to lead to big deficits and more debt in the future. That may help growth now, but it's going to be a problem for later generations. So he has to deal with how we're going to pay for these tax cuts. But certainly a tax cut is going to be a pro-growth proposal.
And a lot of times job creators say they have such a hard time with so much regulation, trying to cut through all the red tape. Donald Trump says he's going to crack down on that. Listen.
Upon taking office, I will issue a temporary moratorium on new agency regulations. This will give our American companies the certainty they need to reinvest in our community, get cash off of the sidelines, start hiring new jobs, and expanding their businesses. So important. That's what it's about.
What do you think?
There's a big opportunity here. We've seen 600 new major regulations over the last 7 years. That's cost businesses about $700 billion in regulation. That's too much money. It's tying up businesses in red tape. Regulatory reform would be a huge growth booster for job creation and wage growth. Would love to see something like that.
Possibly hard to get it done, but hopefully
very hard to get it done.
Right. Brian Brennenberg, thank you so much.
Great to be here.
Professor at King's College. 10 minutes before the top of the hour, and coming up, moms, have you ever felt like doing this? A mother jumping for joy as the kids go back to school. The entire family joins us this morning to react to this social media post that's getting a lot of attention. Don't go anywhere. You're watching. 4 minutes after the hour, it's that time. Well, a mom literally jumping for joy now that her kids are heading back to school, posting, "Happy first day of school, kids. I'm going to miss y'all." Well, her post has gone viral on Facebook with over 250,000 shares.
And joining us now is the viral mom herself, Keisha Gardner, and her husband and her 5 kids. Nice to see all of you.
Hey,
Holy
guys.
smokes. Big family. Keisha, were you surprised? You've been doing these pictures for a number of years. Dad there takes the picture. Are you surprised at the response you've been getting online? This thing went viral?
Yes, I just can't believe it. It blows my mind. We do these every year, and I never expected anything like this to happen.
Well, Emily, how did you feel when this started catching fire on social media and everybody's watching? Your mom's jumping for joy that, hey, she got rid of you. She's getting rid of you to go back to school. Did it hurt your feelings, or are you just giggling at it too?
Yeah, I was giggling, and I was just I just couldn't hold it in, and I think everybody else couldn't either. We didn't laugh any other time, and the 3 pictures before.
Now, Keisha, you've been doing this for a number of years, and you were surprised, I think, by the response about all this, but you're actually using this now as sort of a learning tool for your kids that, hey, when you post stuff online, you got to be careful.
Yeah, I told them, I said, kids, you need to really pay attention to this, because, if you post things online, you could either end up in jail or on the news.
Well, all these people around the country have been sending in their own photos of them jumping for joy, getting it can be chaotic around the house during the summer. Is it kind of chaos, Andy, around the house with the kids all summer? You're like, oh, I'm so excited to get these kids out of here.
Andy, is it chaos around the house?
Yeah. Is that the joy? Now, what are you going to do with your afternoons now that the kids aren't there?
Well, I work full time, so we're back on track now. So we're in a routine, so that's why I'm jumping for joy.
The kids are excited about learning some new stuff in school, getting a new teacher, a new backpack, and meeting new friends. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the program, the Gardner family. It's a full house this morning. You guys go enjoy some waffles or something. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Well, you have the right to remain bilingual. Soon cops may have to read criminals their Miranda rights in Spanish.
That's coming up. Plus, what do Tina Turner and Bruce Springsteen have in common? They're on Biden's summer playlist. What's on yours? Your emails next hour. Don't go anywhere. Hello, friends, and good morning. It's Saturday, the 13th of August, 2016. I'm Anna Koyman. This is Fox and Friends Weekend, and we have a Fox News alert. A state of emergency declared in Louisiana as deadly storms thrash the Gulf Coast and claim the lives of 2 people. Rivers and lakes overflowing their banks, water rushing through the streets, and the threat is far from over.
And another brutal hack on the Democrats. Some of the documents straight from Nancy Pelosi's personal computer. Are they concerned? They might be this morning. We've got details for you.
And it was not your ordinary day at the ballpark.
Oh, my. He did it to himself. Wow. Nachos. Face full of nachos and cheese and salsa.
I've done a lot of storied things in my career here at Fox and Friends, but today I'm going to be recreating that exact scenario, holding a plate of nachos and
Hope you have
beer.
a clean suit.
We're going to be seeing how we can properly catch a foul ball a little bit later on Fox and Friends. Stay tuned.
Phone numbers and email addresses of House members.
The hacker group known as Guccifer 2.0. Maybe it's a group, maybe it's one person is now taking responsibility.
It's a big story and it's developing. Thankfully, we've got Garrett Tenney live for us in D.C. with the breaking details this morning. Hey, Garrett.
Hey, Clayton, Tucker, and Anna. You know, a lot of folks this morning will likely be changing their phone numbers after this hack. Last night, the hacker group known as Guccifer 2.0 claimed responsibility for a cyber attack on the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee that was done earlier this year, and it published a trove of documents to prove it. The DCCC raises money for and helps elect congressional Democrats, and included in the leaked documents are passwords that the DCCC shared, as well as campaign strategy memos and the personal contact information for 193 current and former House Democrats, including several memos purportedly from House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's personal computer detailing fundraisers and campaign overviews. This group, Guccifer 2.0, will likely sound familiar to a lot of folks. It was the same group behind the cyber attacks on the DNC's emails. In a blog post, the hacker said that hacking the DCCC was even easier than that, though, and said they're posting the documents because people have a right to know what's going on inside the election process, adding, quote, "As you see, the U.S. presidential elections are becoming a farce, a big political performance where the voters are far from playing the leading role. Everything is being settled behind the scenes as it was with Bernie Sanders." That is exactly what U.S. security officials are so concerned about, that outside groups or governments could be trying to interfere with U.S. elections. Intelligence officials believe that previous cyber attacks on both the DNC and DCCC were likely carried out by hackers that were somehow affiliated with the Russian government. Guccifer 2.0 says they are not related to the Russian government in any way, though. More as we get it.
All right, thanks, Garrett Tenney, live for us in D.C.
Garrett.
And more breaking news this morning because, according to some fantastic reporting from the Daily Caller, there is yet more trouble for the Clinton campaign this morning.
Well, that's exactly right. We saw, of course, an FBI probe into the security of Hillary Clinton's private server. Now, in 3 cities, according to new reporting, U.S. attorneys, in conjunction with the FBI, are investigating the activities of the Clinton Foundation, which, as you know, has been accused in recent months of basically selling access to foreign strongmen, to foreign governments, and those seeking to influence the U.S. government.
Right, so this is going on in 3 different cities, in Washington, D.C., and here in New York, and also in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the Clinton Foundation was launched in order to get the Clinton Library off the ground. But what does all this mean for Hillary Clinton and her future? Terry Turchi, a former Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI, was on the program earlier and says this.
The email investigation, the first one, involved violations of the espionage statute. It pretty much centered on the idea of gross negligence and mishandling classified information. This is different in that this involves violations of the criminal statutes involving corruption, and you could look at a vast range of charges here. The other major difference here is that in the one case, we talked about the emails. They were the case. In this instance, the emails might very well have the content that helps make the case. as opposed to the first email case. This is a series of crimes that involve specific intent.
Criminal corruption. We talked to Judge Janine Pirro yesterday on the show, and I asked her, when does this become illegal? She says it is already illegal. And the idea that you could fly Bill Clinton in, pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars for a speech, and then suddenly you're able to have access to meetings at the State Department a few weeks later after you've paid her husband hundreds of thousands of dollars or donated money to the Clinton Foundation.
What do you think is motivating these field offices, Tucker, and the FBI to do this? I mean, is it the meeting that Bill Clinton had with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac? Is that raising eyebrows? Since the DOJ in Washington, D.C. isn't doing this, they're reportedly going to?
There's just so much. I mean, the fact that an employee of Hillary Clinton's was working both for the State Department and for the Clinton Foundation and for a third group simultaneously is such an obvious conflict of interest, it's hard to believe it was allowed. Here's the tragedy. Hillary Clinton could get elected president, soon, in 90 days. If that happens, this stuff is not going to go away. The President of the United States will have her activities under scrutiny from the FBI. That's bad for America. The press should have been on this 15 years ago when it all began, but they kind of ignored it, and now, unfortunately, we're going to be dealing with the fruits of it.
I think you bring up a really great point, which is this is not about Hillary Clinton. It's bad for America because if she gets elected, I know the polls seem to be trending that way, right? She's double-digit leads in certain states right now. It's trouble for Donald Trump. If she gets elected, we saw what happened during the impeachment proceedings for Bill Clinton. Basically, the executive branch shut down for a few years. Nothing got done for a few years.
Well, but the media.
What does that do for patriotism, too? What does that do for the trust of the American people in the democratic process?
Right. When you're fighting legal battles and you're having to deal with this, and she could be thrown out, who knows what this could lead to? And it's bad for the American people who are struggling to find work, jobs going overseas. It's bad for America.
Look, I'm a journalist. I look through it at that prism. This is our job, is to vet candidates before they get to this point. And I think Donald Trump should be vetted completely, by the way, and I think he is being. But Hillary Clinton, too. And this foundation is totally a pay-for-play deal. That's the way it seems to me, looking from the outside. Everyone has known that for 15 years, and nobody has really looked into it until now.
Hillary Clinton and her husband Bill are saying that's just a bunch of bunk, and also that Hillary Clinton never put Americans' national security at risk with that private email server. Bill Clinton says it's a whole bunch of bull. Listen.
First of all, the FBI director said when he testified before Congress, he had to amend his previous day's statement that she had never received any emails marked classified. They saw two little notes with a C on it. This is the biggest load of bull I ever heard.
Look, the guy's got a right to defend. I defend my wife no matter what.
Right.
But he doesn't have a right to make up lies. And that's just a flat-out lie. Or at least it's a contradiction of what the FBI director said just the other day in a televised news conference when he said over 100 emails sent by Hillary Clinton or received by her had classified information in them. What did he think? What did Director Comey think when he watched the former president totally mischaracterize?
It's gutsy to drag his name into it.
It is gutsy. I agree with that. Or it takes, I don't know, or deeply dishonest.
All right, on to some other stories that are making headlines. We need to tell you about this because it's a Fox News alert and something that I hate to bring to you, but another police officer is dead this morning after being shot during a traffic stop, this time in Hatch, New Mexico. 33-year-old officer Jose Chavez was shot in the neck by the passenger in a stopped car with two other men inside. All three suspects were later arrested after a high-speed chase. The officer, who had been with the department for 2 years, died after surgery. And investigators now believe they know what caused a Tennessee Ferris wheel car to overturn, sending 3 girls to the hospital after plunging more than 30 feet. Apparently, the rivets on that car were worn out and had come loose. Well, despite that news, the company that owns the Ferris wheel will continue to do business at fairs across the state. Its permit is just renewed. This will make you feel patriotic, though. Team USA staying far ahead of the rest of the world in Rio, especially in the pool. Katie Ledecky earning her 4th gold medal while smashing her own world record in the 800 freestyle by almost 2 seconds. And the other big name, Michael Phelps, finishes in a 3-way tie for 2nd in the 100-meter butterfly. Phelps will go for his 23rd career gold tonight in his final race in Rio. 23rd, wow. But there was a heartbreak on the soccer field. Team USA losing to Sweden on penalty kicks in the quarterfinals. The U.S. hasn't been eliminated this early since 1996. The United States extending their lead in the medal count with 50. And those are your headlines.
And now to extreme weather, and there's an awful lot of it in America this morning. Louisiana is now under a state of emergency. Amazingly heavy downpours led to severe flooding there.
The torrential rain already claiming the life of 2 people. Dozens also had to be rescued from waist-high water surrounding their homes, including this one where several bystanders being called heroes this morning because they had to pull out a driver, an elderly driver, who got swept away and washed off the road.
The video is incredible. Rick Reichmuth joins us now with what we can expect today. And more rain is on the way.
Yeah, more rain. A catastrophic situation unfolding across southern Louisiana. When you think about all of the rain events, all the hurricanes that have hit the area, this storm bringing more rain than a lot of those. Take a look at the maps. I'll show you what's going on. A system that's been across the Gulf for the better part of 7 days now, and it's just very slowly drifted across parts of that central Gulf. You see it's still there, not budging at all, continuing to bring more rain. And some spots have seen well over 20 inches of rain in around the last 36 hours now. That's what is causing the rivers to crest well higher than their all-time records. We're going to still see more rain today and throughout the next couple of days, actually. Some spots still in Louisiana, maybe an additional 10 to 15 inches of rain. So we have a long ways to go with this story. Guys, we'll send it back to you inside.
Well, thanks a million, Rick.
Well, Fox News alert, we just told you about hackers releasing the personal information of hundreds of Democrats. Well, one of those Democrats joins us live to react next.
And a high-speed pursuit comes to a dramatic end. A truck being chased for an
Democratic Party, the hacker or hackers known as Guccifer 2.0, taking credit for releasing hundreds of House members' personal phone numbers and emails. Among the victims of this attack is Michigan Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, and she joins us now with her reaction. Congresswoman, great to see you this morning. So, first, my condolences. I feel sorry for anybody whose personal information gets released against his or her will. But it does seem like this has happened a lot to Democratic Party organizations recently. Do you think those organizations have been negligent in protecting their data?
Well, I think it's somebody that's really smart that's getting in. People have been using their passwords. I'm told that Republicans have it too. But It's a reminder to all of us, we got to be careful. And you better be careful about what you put in writing. Though the personal nature of some of this leaks is obviously disturbing.
Yeah, well, I completely agree with you. So Hillary Clinton released her tax returns the other day to some fanfare. And in those returns, we learned that the former president, her husband, received $16.5 million from a private education company for fulfilling an honorary role for that company. What honorary role pays $16.5 million?
Well, I think my understanding is he's worked hard and done a lot for him, and a number of companies do use people of this stature to help talk about things that can make them better, bring other people into it, and talk to young people and engage them. So it's not unusual. It's done. I wish you and I could get those kind of gigs.
But I mean, if you care about it, I mean, he's a very rich man. They've made more than $250 million in the last 15 years. And if you really care about educating poor people, and a lot of these kids are in the third world, wouldn't that money be better served educating them? Why would he take that much money when it could be used to educate kids?
You don't know how much President Clinton has done for people around the world, how malaria has been significantly diminished, what's happened with HIV and AIDS. We need to talk about all of the contributions he's made and what he's done around the world. So you're getting a little piece of a snapshot and not talking about all the good and the difference that's been made.
So you're comfortable with the president and his wife, Hillary Clinton, taking $250 million in payment for speeches over the last 15 years? That seems like fair compensation, do you think?
Look, you are the very first person to defend a free market. We live in a world where we've got people that pay that kind of money and earn those kinds of livings. And they were making a going rate. They were not making what others weren't being made.
Oh, no, and I'm not, and by the way, I'm not contesting whether it should be allowed or not, but lots of things are allowed. The question is, should you do them? And I'm just asking, are you comfortable with that? Do you think that's a fair compensation for giving speeches $250 million, or does that make you uncomfortable? It makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Doesn't it make you a little bit uncomfortable?
Look, you and I aren't making those kinds of dollars, but there are lots of people that you and I know who are living in a very competitive free enterprise that are. And they give 10% of their dollars to charity, which, by the way, is a lot more than Donald Trump is doing. We don't even know what he's doing, Tucker. He's not releasing his taxes. And he says that he's making contributions in philanthropy and then not making what he says he's going to make.
Well, we'll find out if we get his tax returns. By the way, that Those donations were to her own charity. So to the Clinton Foundation, so there's all this scandal, and it's going to continue. Apparently there are 3 different investigations by U.S. attorneys in 3 different cities on this. But if you take 3 steps back, my question is, why did Hillary Clinton persist in having any contact at all with the Clinton Foundation while she was Secretary of State? Wasn't that just a recipe for the kind of conflicts we're seeing now? Why not just say, you know what, I'm not having any contact at all. None of my employees are going to work there part-time. I'm not talking to my husband about it. Why didn't she do that?
You know, I suspect in retrospect she would do that. You know, we learn every single day. But let's put this in perspective. Judicial Watch is a far-right group that is trying to discredit her every single day. This has been subject to multiple investigations. No one has found anything that was wrong. They got 2 appointments. State Department is saying that there was no conflict of interest. And I think that everybody's going to keep talking about this and using this kind of rhetoric and diverting instead of talking about the things we need to be talking about. Who's ready to be commander-in-chief the day that they get elected?
Right.
Who has better background? Look, we're going to keep hearing about this until election because they want to create some kind of scandal that has been investigated and investigated and investigated. And when are we going to start talking about substance?
Okay,
Tucker?
I mean, I don't think it's a crazy point, but I mean, again, these are apparently new investigations. One of them is run by Preet Bharara, who's the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Do you think he's a right-winger out to get Hillary?
No, but by the way, I don't know what investigations are or aren't underway. And I think if people have questions, go ahead and add a 25,000th investigation. Okay. I think it's fair. But Benghazi had 9 investigations. Right. We're going to investigate these people till, but at some point, they haven't found anything. She hasn't been indicted. Okay. When are we going to hold and talk substance? What's going to happen when either of them becomes president?
It seems substantive to me. Congressman, thanks a lot for joining us this morning. It's great to see you.
Tucker, I always like seeing you, and give my best to your parents.
I will. Thank you. Well, a major twist in a story that captivated the country. The nephew of making a murder subject, Stephen Avery, just had his conviction overturned. We'll tell you what happened. From the fight against terror, an American drone strike killing top ISIS leader Hafiz Khan in Afghanistan. The State Department considered Khan a global terrorist who once worked with the Taliban. And the U.S. Marines looking for a few good women. Recruiters now turning to girls' high school sports teams to find physically qualified candidates. Apparently, they're starting this campaign because they're having a hard time finding women who qualify under the same standards that are required for men. Interesting. Anna?
All right, well, this is a Fox News alert, Clayton, and it's huge for anyone who's been following that wildly popular Netflix series called Making a Murderer. Well, a federal judge has overturned Brendan Dassey's murder conviction, ordering the 26-year-old to be retried or released.
Dassey and his uncle, Stephen Avery, were convicted, of course, back in 2007 for the rape and murder of Teresa Halbach, a photographer for Auto Trader magazine. But many believed at the time that Dassey didn't deserve the life sentence he received. They said local cops coerced him into giving a false confession. Well, here with more is former NBC 26 reporter Aaron Keller, who has covered this case literally from the first call to his newsroom. Aaron, it's great to see you this morning.
Good morning, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
So, I mean, if you could step out of your reporter role for a second and into your analyst role, do you think this is a good outcome, a fair outcome?
Well, this is a 91-page decision.
Whoa.
And it's incredibly thorough. It's good to see that a judge has independently looked at the facts of this interrogation, taken everything in what the courts would call a totality of the circumstances test, and say, hey, look, this kid was dragged into an interrogation room. Yeah, he was read his Miranda rights, but they were using such tricky lines of questioning for a young person who had some intellectual disabilities, and that they fed him most of what he allegedly confessed to.
Here's an example of what you're talking about. This was one of the controversial sections that the judge, I think, probably weighed in on. Watch some of this confession. It's almost like they're feeding him lines to say, listen.
Honesty here, Brendan, is the thing that's going to help you. Okay, no matter what you did, we can work through that. Okay, we can't make any promises, but we'll stand behind you no matter what you did.
She told me not to do it.
What does Steve do then?
Told me I did a good job.
All right, I'm just going to come out and ask you, who shot her in the head?
He did.
Unbelievable. So what you said, now he's looked at these 91 pages, some of the facts that have come out in here. What stands out to you in that 91-page report?
There's a lot. I mean, had been able to analyze many of these things going into the case, but when you take them all together, that's what the court really looked at. Take everything together. Take the lines that we just heard. Take some of the other statements that were said, and they just said flat out, the Wisconsin courts messed this up. And they said the investigators, they were probably trying to push for the correct information when Brendan Dassey was meandering around in the story. But at the end of the day, they said, you were feeding him too much information.
Yeah, and he didn't have a parent there with him, and according to court documents, he had a low IQ. This is something that you saw an issue with when you were a reporter there, and then when you were going through law school, you even put notes in the margins of something that was almost textbook for this, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a 14th Amendment due process clause analysis, and the due process clause is what it says. We have a due process of law in this country. The government has the burden in criminal cases, and in this case, the courts examined whether the government acted properly, due process of law, and they said in this case, no.
But did he do it? I mean, I think it's a fair argument, and I think we all deserve due process, and it sounds like the government screwed up. But do you, as someone who's followed this from day one, think this guy committed criminal acts?
People ask me that all the time, and I think as a journalist, my job is not to say whether I think he did it.
But nobody's listening. Just tell us now, what do you think?
I don't think that it's ethical for a former journalist to get into that. I mean, look, the bottom line is that the government didn't meet its burdens of constitutionality.
I won't push you like Tucker did, but do you think he's going to be retried? That's the question now. Will he be retried? Will he end up going back to prison?
Well, the state is determining that right now. I mean, the state could retry him, but here's the bottom line. Under this decision, the state is losing most of its best evidence.
Really?
I mean,
so they might not have a case after this.
That's highly possible.
Wow. Fascinating. If you've not watched, you're all over the documentary as well. If you've not watched it on Netflix, it is amazing. Making a Murderer. Aaron Keller, great to see you this
We're
morning.
going to ask Aaron in the commercial break what he really thinks and tell you when we come back. Thanks, Aaron. Great to see you.
But we won't tell.
Journalist.
Smoke signals.
Next up, you've got the right to remain bilingual. Soon, cops may have to read criminals their Miranda rights in Spanish.
And instead of catching a foul ball, this man got smothered with nacho cheese. So how can you avoid this same fate? Former Major Leagues.
Oh, won't you stay with me?
BFFs.
Besties.
On the heels of President Obama releasing his summer playlist, Vice President Joe Biden decided to drop his list of summer tunes.
That is actually a really cute picture. All right, Sam Smith's Stay With Me topped the list, which also included Adele's Hello, and even Lady Gaga had a song on the list.
I don't believe this for a second. If you were to get your paws on Joe Biden's iPod, it would be 100% Mel Torme. I'm totally convinced.
The Velvet Fog?
It would be the Velvet Fog from top to bottom. That's my guess.
I think he's a little bit more hip than that.
I think he is too.
I like him because he's not. Well, he wanted to know what your applause about.
Yeah.
I just saw Steve Winwood in concert. He opened for Steely Dan, and they were fantastic. So anytime I see a concert, it ends up bubbling up.
He opened for Steely Dan.
Can you imagine that?
More evidence the world is unfair.
Come on.
They should be opening for him.
We want to know, though, keep sending us your favorite songs because we're having a fun time singing and dancing along with them.
We've got some headlines for you next. New details on the U.S.'s controversial cash drop to Iran, the ransom we paid for our hostages. A top Department of Justice official named as one of the many people who objected to the $400 million cash drop. At the same time, Tehran released several Americans being held as prisoners there. The Wall Street Journal reports that John Carlin, he's the head of the National Security Division, thought it looked way too much like a ransom payment, maybe because it was. Meanwhile, Senators Ted Cruz and Mike Lee are calling for a full accounting of the decision, saying it may have violated federal law. And a surprise ending for a suspected thief in a high-speed chase. Watch this. The driver in Texas dodging cops, whipping in and out of traffic for nearly an hour with both front tires blown off his vehicle. Finally, the suspect sped through a red light, gets T-boned by a car carrying a woman and her 4 children. They end up with just minor injuries, thank heaven. The driver of the truck was hospitalized and then brought to jail. Miranda rights delivered in Spanish. Texas lawyers are now pushing for a standardized Spanish version of the warning. They say it's because officers have been given different translations where important meanings of words are being lost in translation. That's led to confusion and cases being overturned. It does raise the question, though, can a bilingual country remain united, or will it be divided against itself? That debate continues. Meanwhile, battle buddies reunited after 6 years apart.
I took a boy.
It's a good boy.
Mike Lehman and his dog Adam served together as a canine bomb squad in the Middle East. They are separated when Mike came back to the U.S. Adam stayed behind to work. Mike finally found his dog through a group called Mission Canine and brought him home to Washington State. The happiest story of your morning. And those, ladies and gentlemen, are your headlines. Clayton Morris is outside for us. Morning, Clayton.
It's embarrassment time, Tucker. Earlier in the show, we spoke with this poor guy right here, Corey Heineman, the baseball fan who took some nachos to the face as he was reaching for a foul ball this week. But to help you avoid the same fate at the summer ballparks, we decided to bring in a former Major League pitcher for some advice on this. Legend and current host of FS1, CJ Nikowski. CJ, nice to see you this morning.
Good to be here.
So everyone's mocking this video. What did you think when you first saw it?
It was bad. Yeah. I mean, to have those nachos there, you got to be aware of what's going on. We see people drop food all the time, but not on your own face. It was a bad look.
But in his defense, and I said this to him this morning, he had nachos and a beer.
Yeah.
What do you do in that situation?
You got to give it all up. You cannot hold on to that food. You know how expensive it is, but this is the only situation in which it is okay to spill your food on somebody else. You got to throw that to the side and think about catching that Major League Baseball.
Okay, so get me a glove because you'll see kids come to the park and they're prepared, right? They're always saying, "Ball, we got to be careful." They make the announcement before the games.
That's right.
So smart move bringing a glove to the game.
Not even kids, but adults. Absolutely. Line drives, depending on where you're sitting, a glove is not a terrible idea.
So foul ball. Yeah, watch out, people from behind. Do we have insurance on the folks?
All right, yeah, they've got gloves too.
They're ready.
Yeah, be careful.
Clayton's an all-star baseball fan. Are you ready? Who's going first?
We need one at a not two.
Oh,
one at a time, right?
You go, Clayton.
All
right, that's you.
Oh, yeah. All right,
good catch, but we're not going to sit down when the ball's in the air, right? You're going to have to jump.
You got to stand
because
up.
You're going to have to fight off other fans.
Right, okay.
You understand?
Right.
These guys want that ball. These guys want that ball. And even though if we're together, you got to push a little bit. You got to push the other guy a little bit. This is a lot of value in this face. Not the TV face.
Right.
Not bad. Not bad.
Good there.
Not bad.
He's got
all right, let me add a drink to this. Ready?
Thank you. Hey, I might.
So we're just shooting the bowl, sitting there talking
about how bad the Phillies are this year.
Right. Thanks for that. Oh, watch out, everyone.
We fight for it. That's all right. Good.
Still have my drink.
Good balance. Good balance. If it's a soda, you can hold on. If it's a beer, you got to hold on to. It's a soda, you can just get rid of it. Oh, it's all right. But I got the ball.
And then
You got the ball. You can have. I can buy another drink. You can't go get another baseball.
All right. Let's get some nachos.
We add in the nachos?
All right,
This is
you ready for
dangerous.
this?
I hope you have a change of clothing.
That's your first mistake, getting this out of baseball game. This is mistake number one.
Don't get the nachos.
Get
some hot soup.
all of it.
What about some hot soup?
Don't you put nachos in your legs?
And when you're at the game, you want something to eat and something to drink, don't you? Come on, Clayton, pick up the drink, too.
This is
Now you gotta
this is where you get in trouble.
What you gonna do now? All right.
Yeah. You're counting on me. You're counting on me. You care about your food. You care about your food too much.
That's right. And he should have ducked out of the way.
Clayton is not getting rid of his food.
Don't worry about your food.
Suck it.
So good. All right, now let's add a baby into the mix.
Yeah. Can you throw the baby?
No.
See,
that was pretty
no one else is going to want to grab my baseball.
It's also helpful if your food is sticky and will catch the ball.
Right,
Hi, Peaches.
Thank you.
All right,
So this is a huge mistake.
On your mark, get set.
Right. Huge mistake. He's got
Well, at least I saved my nachos.
We need to tell Natalie. I hope Natalie's watching with the newborn that's on the way.
Hold on, let's do one. Pick up the baby. Are you okay? All right. My baby.
Yeah, he'll be fine
from CPS.
Okay.
All right.
Daddy didn't mean to do that.
One last one.
Give the other guy your
yeah, I'll hold your baby. CJ, thanks so much.
Pleasure. Enjoyed it. Nice job.
CJ didn't think he'd been doing this morning when he woke up. We appreciate it. And thanks to whoever lent us their babies. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And take little Peaches home with
Anybody
you.
want some nachos?
Tucker? Oh, boy. All right. Apple, Twitter, Google, and Instagram all reportedly working together to defeat Donald Trump. But does this tech takedown have any chance of working? Plus, the most ticketed...
Now, the Obama administration has suggested that we ought to view the internet really as a public utility. Yeah. So is there a role, at least theoretically, for the government, which regulates the broadcast networks, as you know, to step in and say, if you're going to pretend to be an unbiased pipeline through which news flows, then you have to actually be that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the FCC does regulate media companies. They're somewhat restricted by the First Amendment and how they could affect how Twitter's operations are or what they censor or not. But if they are, pretending to be, Twitter said they're the free speech party, the free speech wing. If they're going to say that they're not really a free speech, maybe there could be a lawsuit or something. But I think it'd be mainly user complaints that could change this.
Yeah. So if you're going to be the arbiter of free speech, you ought to let speech be free.
Yeah.
And not crush people you disagree with. Alex Pfeiffer, great to see you this morning. Thanks for doing
thanks
this.
for having me.
Well, forget soccer moms. A new group of voters, a key group, they're called security moms, and they're worried about their family safety. Some of them are here to discuss their concerns. That's all live next hour. And before you get ready for your next hunting trip, and you should go on a hunting trip, by the way, before you die, you'll need some new camo and boots. Who has it? Bass Pro, of course. And they're here next to break down their deal.
Hey everybody, are you gearing up for a big hunting trip? Why wouldn't you be? Well, you are in luck because the annual Bass Pro Shops Fall Hunting Classic is in full swing.
Yeah, here to tell us more about the incredible hunting show and sale is Redhead Pro Hunting Team's Alan Treadwell. Welcome back, Alan.
Hey, great to be here. Our Fall Classic starts today. Today's the first day, and it's our biggest hunting event and sale of the year. We got stuff going on where you can save big on all the hunting gear that you need. We're going to have local and national pros coming to do seminars, free seminars. We even have seminars especially for women and children going on.
Yeah, really trying to get the next generation, I guess.
Exactly. So the next generation, that's our last weekend, 27th and 28th of August. That weekend right there is our Bass Pro Shops Next Generation Weekend, where it's all about the kids. And we got some cool stuff going on, giveaways, archery tournament, crafts, so they're going to have fun. It's fun for the whole family.
It's such great family stuff to do this together, and with the kids you teach them safety and respect for nature and wildlife, all of it at the same time.
Exactly.
Which is great stuff. Yep. All right, you guys, you do tons of trade-in on your products, but you will take trade-in boots?
Yeah, we get trade-in boots. So Bass Pro Shops,
Are you sure you want my boots?
If they have holes in them, it doesn't matter. We're going to take them. And we have boots for every occasion. Obviously, desert, wetland, whatever the case may be. And you got an old pair of boots, bring them in. We're going to trade them in for a brand new pair of boots. Take money off. So right now we have these Lynx boots, Rocky Lynx boots. They're insulated, they're Gore-Tex, which means they're going to be waterproof, all right? Right now, the Fall Hunting Classic, they're $50 off. But if you bring in an old pair of boots to trade in, you can get these boots for $64.97. That's less than half of the original cost.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, this camo is a little bit better looking than a lot of camo.
Than what you're supposed to see, yeah.
You do this in a really interesting way.
Yep, so we take digital photos and we layer them, all right, kind of in Photoshop. So it starts out with a background like this.
Showing us how you put the screen print on
exactly.
your camo items.
Using real photos of stuff in nature, sticks, twigs. So we take a real photo of a tree and we're going to layer it on top of that. Then we're going to come in with real photos of leaves, layered on top of that. And when it comes together, what you're going to see is what I'm wearing right now. And it's our new Kanati pattern that we're so proud of. It's for the fall. It looks great. I mean, you're going to blend into nature everywhere.
I mean, I feel like I can't tell where you begin and I end.
Exactly. Like they say at True Timber. Like they like to say at True Timber, almost real isn't real enough. And this stuff looks so real. It really does.
It's really cold out here right now, isn't it? You want to put this on? It feels like somebody just said it does. It's not soupy out here. It's chowdery out here. It's so humid. I think this is the most humid I've ever felt it.
By the way, I'm going to borrow that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So this jacket is one of your products, but it is also scent-free.
Right. Well, we have some stuff inside of it that helps be scent-free. So as a hunter, you want to be scent-free. You don't want that animal to smell you, because if they do, they're going to turn and go away. So we have Sentinel products, and what that Sentinel does, uses some really cool technology. We have some zeolite technology that embeds antimicrobial silver right into the fabric, which inhibits the ability of odor bacteria so that animals can't smell you.
So, A, does it really work?
Absolutely.
And B, can you put it in the washing machine and will it still work?
You can wash it, but the cool part about it is that you don't have to wash it. So if you're on a big trip somewhere, you don't have access to a washing machine, hang it up. The Sentinel's going to regenerate itself.
Wow, this is amazing. And the people, your buddies you're hunting with, also don't have to smell you while you're out
There's
there.
benefits all across the board.
Alan, amazing stuff as always. Yep. You're going to be back later on in the show.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate more on the Fall Hunting Classic, and you're planning your next visit to Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah, great.
Right.
Great stuff. Thanks for coming by. All right, well, this is what's coming up on the program. A new poll puts Donald Trump behind Hillary Clinton in 4 battleground states. Can he win them back? Dr. Larry Sabato is looking to his crystal ball as usual and has the states that will decide the fall election top of the hour. Plus, Robert De Niro is talking to Donald Trump. His message for the Republican 16. I'm Anna Koyman. This is Fox and Friends Weekend and a Fox News alert. Deep trouble in the Deep South. A state of emergency declared as deadly floods and heavy rains soak Louisiana, and the threat is far from over.
Then another brutal hack attack on Democrats. Hundreds of personal phone numbers and addresses leaked, and some of the documents straight from Nancy Pelosi's personal computer. We're going to hear from one of the Democrats who was hacked straight ahead.
And then a new movie called Sausage Party is getting blasted by critics, not because it's a bad movie, though it looks like one, but because the singing potato is, brace yourselves now, racist. It might offend the Irish. Wait till you hear what they said about the bread. That's bad, too. You can't make it up, and we don't, because it's Fox and Friends. Stay tuned for the last hour.
I wonder what group it is that is claiming that movie is racist. If there's some small group just looking for attention.
There's probably one moron in their basement complaining.
There's an entire architecture, a whole infrastructure of grievance groups that actually make decent salaries with 401ks whining about bread in movies.
You know what? I think the American populace is getting very sick of political correctness.
Except some people are getting rich on it. I live in a city full of them in D.C.
We wouldn't have half of our show if we didn't have morons like that. Good morning, everyone. Welcome into Fox and Friends on this Saturday morning. We want to get right to this Fox News alert. The Democratic Party is the target of yet another cyber attack.
The hacker, or hackers, we're not really sure yet, is known as Guccifer 2.0. And the group has released hundreds of personal phone numbers and emails of Democratic House members.
Awful. Garrett Tenney is live in Washington, D.C. with the breaking details. Good morning, Garrett.
Good morning, Clayton, Tucker, and Anna. This story is becoming all too familiar. Last month, it was the DNC emails, and now the hacker known as Guccifer 2.0 is striking again. Last night, the hacker posted a series of documents stolen in a cyber attack from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee earlier this year. The documents include a spreadsheet with the personal contact information for 193 current and former House Democrats, their cell phone numbers, personal email addresses, as well as their home addresses. Another file claims to be a series of memos from House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's personal computer detailing fundraisers and campaign overviews. The DCCC confirmed the cyber attack back in July and is now cooperating with federal investigators. Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell from Michigan is one of the lawmakers whose personal contact information was released, and she says, in this day and age, everyone needs to be careful.
Well, I think it's somebody that's really smart that's getting in. People have been using their passwords. I'm told that Republicans have it too. But it's a reminder to all of us, we got to be careful. And you better be careful about what you put in writing. Though the personal nature of some of this leaks is obviously disturbing.
In a blog post, the hacker Guccifer 2.0 said that, like the release of the DNC emails, the purpose of this document dump is to allow people to have a right to know what's going on inside the election process. He writes in part, as you see, the U.S. presidential elections are becoming a farce, a big political performance where the voters are far from playing the leading role. Everything is being settled behind the scenes, as it was with Bernie Sanders. This is only the latest document dump in what's becoming a string of cyber attacks on the Democratic Party, and that has U.S. officials very concerned that outside groups or governments could be trying to interfere in U.S. elections. Back to y'all.
Does seem that way. Garrett Tenney live from Washington. Thanks, Garrett. Well, according to the latest polls we've got, Donald Trump is in fact trailing Hillary Clinton in 4 key battleground states. Those are Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, and the state of Colorado. In Virginia and Colorado, Clinton's lead is, as of this morning, in the double digits.
Here to break down what this means for Trump, Dr. Larry Sabato from the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. Great to see you, Larry.
Great to see you, too. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's break down. Tucker mentioned 4 of the states right now, battleground states. Let's talk about Colorado. What's happening there, and will that go to Hillary Clinton, do you think?
Yeah, I think that one is very likely to go to Clinton, and not just because of this particular poll. We've seen now for probably about 4 months a pretty strong trend to the Democrats there. It's happening in the Senate race, not just the presidential race. Some of it is the growth of the Hispanic vote. Some of it is in-migration to Colorado. There are a combination of factors, but if I were in the Trump campaign, I wouldn't be spending all that much money and time on Colorado.
I'll hear from our notes from producers. We have 6 states that you are predicting will decide the election: Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, Iowa, and Nevada. Why those half dozen?
Well, because we wanted a break from some of the ones that we've been talking about a little too frequently, like Florida and Ohio and Pennsylvania. I wanted to look at some of the other states. You know, when you combine some of these states, you get electoral college packets that are as large as the big states. So it's worth taking a look at some of these other states. For example, Trump is doing better than expected in both Iowa and Nevada. Now, I have no idea whether he'll end up actually carrying them in November. But in Iowa, for example, he's led in a couple of polls within the margin of error. He has been doing well with his base group of supporters, working class Americans, blue collar Americans, and in Iowa there are plenty of them. In Nevada, of course, he has a big presence because of his business interests. So it's worth taking a look at some of these other states. We always talk about the same ones, and I'm going to accuse you of state prejudice and state political correctness if you don't change this.
Okay, we're working on it.
So, a couple weeks out from the 1980 election, the incumbent Jimmy Carter was leading Ronald Reagan. Of course, Reagan ended up winning. It raised, and the debates, I think, had a big role in that change. How predictive are the numbers now? How worried would you be if you were the Trump team this morning?
Well, it's mid-August, you know, and the doldrums of August are not all that predictive of November. That's not to say they shouldn't be worried. They should be worried for lots of objective reasons. That is, the money that they're spending or not spending, the places that are trending against them that they need to be for them. But you mentioned the debates, and let's mention the most important thing of all, X factors. Some people call them October surprises, but they can just as easily occur in September. Let me mention one, not that I'm asking for an economic collapse, but, you know, at this time in 2008, there was virtually no one in the economic field predicting an economic collapse at the end of September, which is exactly what happened, and it transformed the election. You just never know about false surprises, and they can rewrite the script.
Yeah, John McCain, of course, suspended his campaign, was rushing back to Washington, D.C. It was a crazy time in 2008. Well, let's look at some of the areas where maybe Donald Trump needs to be concerned among independents. And the other day we talked to Lee Carter, who was analyzing some of the recent trends among independents, and she had this to say about him losing among independents. Listen.
They honor President Obama. ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS. Okay? He's the founder. He founded ISIS. And I would say the co-founder would be crooked Hillary Clinton.
Well, she measured that trend line there among independents, the yellow line in the middle, and she said it wasn't resonating with independents. They gave it a D score, and Democrats gave it an F, and the GOP didn't really resonate either. They gave it a C. What does he need to do with independents? What does Hillary need to do with independents, and where do you see that shift happening right now?
Well, you're absolutely right to point to independence as a problem for Trump right now. Essentially, he is, depending on the poll, he's either behind about 5 or he is more or less tied. When I do polling averages, I find out that Trump is tied with Clinton among independents. But Mitt Romney, who had obviously a losing campaign and lost by 4 large percentage points nationally, won independents by 5 points. So a Republican challenging a Democrat in this kind of race should be ahead with independents. You've just put your finger on something that's very important, and this gets to the lack of political experience that Trump has. You know, he has broad business experience, but he's never run for office before. What happens in a rally, how people in your core base respond in a rally, does not necessarily resonate with the broader population. So some of these highly negative lines that he uses that the rally goers just go crazy over fall flat with the broader public that he's got to attract, including independents, to win the race.
Right, so to try to get in the minds of independents, not just his supporters that he's seeing there at the rallies, I guess you're saying. Is there a psychological impact when voters see numbers for Donald Trump falling, even if it's slightly? Is there a psychological impact because his message has been, I'm the winner, stick with me and we'll win?
Well, there might be. I guess maybe I'm judging more from Twitter, and I hear from thousands of people from many different political colorations. But the Trump people who communicate with me seem to get even more intense when the polls go in another direction because they don't believe the polls. They think the polls are skewed. They think the pundits are skewed. They think the media is skewed. They tend to get madder and they work harder. So you never know what the real psychological effect is overall.
No, that's true. The great Larry Sabato from Mr. Jefferson's University, UVA, joining us live this morning. Thanks a lot, Larry.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
At 9 minutes after the hour, we're going to tell you about some other stories that are making news at this hour. And this headline starts with a Fox News alert: a police officer is dead after being shot during a traffic stop in Hatch, New Mexico. 33-year-old officer Jose Chavez was shot in the neck by the passenger in a stopped car with 2 other men inside. All 3 suspects were later arrested after a high-speed chase. The officer, who had been with the department for 2 years, died after surgery. In another Fox News alert, a major twist in a story that's captivated America.
Disappearance of Teresa Halbach remains a mystery.
This is really strange. What's going on here?
Yeah, you remember that Netflix series, The Making a Murderer? Did you watch that? I watched a few of them. Well, a Wisconsin judge just overturned the 2007 conviction of 26-year-old Brendan Dassey. If you'll remember, he was just 17 years old when he was found guilty of helping his uncle, Stephen Avery, rape and murder Teresa Halbach, photographer for Auto Trader magazine. Dassey's confession to the crimes on camera, he did do that on camera, but this morning a federal judge has ruled that there was a controversial element to that confession, and that he may have been coerced by investigators, and he should either be retried or released.
Honesty here, Brendan, is the thing that's going to help you. Okay, no matter what you did, we can work through that. Okay, we can't make any promises, but we'll stand behind you no matter what you did.
She told me not to do it.
What does Steve do then?
Told me I did a good job.
All right, I'm just going to come up and ask you, who shot her in the head?
He did.
Well, Dassey could be freed within the next 90 days. He did have a parent there, and court documents show that he has a low IQ, and many thought that was not fair when watching that documentary. All right, now this. Actor Robert De Niro giving his 2 cents in the race for the White House. The Raging Bull star says Donald Trump should not even be running for president because he's, quote, totally nuts. De Niro telling the audience at a special screening of his film Taxi Driver. I don't know. It's crazy that people like Donald Trump. He shouldn't even be where he is. So God help us. That's what De Niro says.
That's right. It shouldn't be allowed, says another entitled rich guy.
Now to some extreme weather. Louisiana now under a state of emergency after heavy downpours led to severe flooding. The torrential rain already claiming the life of 2 individuals. Dozens also had to be rescued from waist-high water surrounding their homes.
Rick Wagmuth joins us now with what we can expect today, and hopefully they don't get dumped on too much, but you say more rain is coming.
Yeah, there's a lot more rain in store. In fact, some spots maybe another foot of rain or so, and the system is kind of stuck there, so we probably have another 4 to 5 days rain total. Take a look at the maps. I'll show you what we're talking about. This is a system. It started 7 days ago, a little bit closer in towards the Florida Panhandle and to the north of Tampa. It's very slowly drifted off towards the west, and for the last 36 hours or so has been stuck pouring across parts of Louisiana, and unfortunately some spots well over 20 inches of rain now. That means you automatically are going to have massive flooding, and we're talking about flooding that is at all-time records here. This system sticks with us there, maybe another foot of rain, and it pulls to the north. We're going to be looking at flooding concerns across the Ohio Valley later today and for the next few days, so a lot going on. All right, guys, we'll send it back to you, and real quickly, your husband sent you off on a great adventure.
Absolutely.
You want to get on from Brunswick, Ohio.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello to
Hi,
your
husband in Brunswick, Ohio.
There you go. Send it back to you guys inside.
Go Ohio, one of our favorite states. So the question is, what does Bill Clinton think about his wife's pesky email scandal? Now we know.
The FBI director said when he testified before Congress, he had to amend his previous day's statement that she had never received any emails marked classified. They saw 2 little notes with a C on it. This is the biggest load of bull I ever heard.
So what are you going to believe, your lion eyes or former President Bill Clinton? He says his wife's email scandal never really happened. But what does Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy think of that? He joins us now to respond. Congressman, great to see you this morning. So maybe I was watching a different press conference than the one the former president was watching, but I seem to remember the FBI director, James Comey, telling America that Hillary Clinton sent or received over 100 emails with classified information in them.
Classified information, and a few of them were marked classified. And for Bill Clinton to come out now and say, this is a bunch of bull, why then did he have this secret meeting with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac in Arizona to make sure he could tamp down any kind of prosecution that comes from the DOJ? If he wasn't concerned about Hillary Clinton and her scandal with the email, he wouldn't have had to have that secret meeting with Loretta Lynch. He knows better than that. He's just trying to spin Hillary out of trouble. And Tucker doesn't work.
But at a great cost, though. I mean, doesn't all of this, the meeting with Loretta Lynch, her denial of an FBI request to investigate the Clinton Foundation, doesn't it undermine collectively our confidence in the equal application of justice? I mean, people come here not just because it's a rich country, because it's a fair country. We're all treated the same. This is corrosive, is it not?
You know, it is. I was a former prosecutor here in Wisconsin, a state prosecutor, and we have this idea in America that justice is blind. We think of the lady with the scales of justice, and she has a blindfold over her eyes because justice treats everyone equally, whether you live in a trailer park in Wisconsin or a mansion in New York City. We treat everybody equitably. The problem is when we see these new emails come out with this tie between the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton State Department, and we see that billionaires from Nigeria can give money to the Clinton Foundation and then get access to the State Department. That's pay for play. That's corruption. And when the FBI saw that, they went to the DOJ and said, hey, we should investigate this. But the corruption inside the DOJ and this administration said, no, we're going to leave this alone. The problem that America sees is they saw this administration go after their political adversaries, the Tea Party. They used the IRS to go after them, to shut them down. But when you have political friends like Hillary Clinton, the DOJ will shut down investigations to make sure America doesn't see what's happening behind closed doors. This was supposed to be the most open and transparent administration we've had in our history. This is corruption at the highest, and I think what happens politically, Tucker, is everybody thinks in America that Hillary Clinton's a liar.
Right.
That's baked in. The problem is that they now see that she's corrupt as well, and that's going to be a problem for her on the campaign trail.
And it does hurt the whole country. And if, by the way, if Republicans were doing this, I hope I would be honest enough to be outraged about it. I think I would, because I think it's bad. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Tucker.
Well, forget soccer moms. A new key group of voters, according to pollsters, security moms. They're concerned about their family's safety. Our panel of them is back to discuss their biggest worries. That's next. And buckle your seatbelt, because the new film Sausage Party is getting blasted by the critics for being a bad film, but also because apparently
the American way of life being constantly threatened. That's what many voters are saying right now. An alarming new poll out this week. A Monmouth University poll released this week asked Americans, how do they feel about their life? Do they feel that if it's being threatened right now? And get this, a whopping 47% said yes, they feel it's being threatened a great deal. Another 61% in a separate poll say Islamic terrorists currently threaten their lives and livelihood and their family members. In fact, concerns like this have given rise to a voting bloc known as security moms, formerly soccer moms. These moms have now made safety a top priority. Joining me now are some of those moms who share these views. We've got Beth, Nell, Deborah, and Kathy here all to talk about it. Nice to see all of you this morning. So let me put up one of these polls because I want to get your take on it. Do you feel your way of life threatened by a potential Clinton presidency? This was a question asked in this Monmouth poll. 42% said yes, 55% said no. Now, where do you come down on that?
Well, I am the only Democrat on this panel.
Which is why I went to you first.
I know.
It's amazing how that works.
Isn't that? I would feel less safe if the commander-in-chief that we chose for this nation was Donald Trump than I would if it was Hillary. First of all, he has no foreign policy experience. The way he acts as a diplomat already is frightening to me, and I don't think that people can trust what comes out of his mouth.
You see this poll, though, and Hillary Clinton with 42% feeling, Deborah, that it's a threat to them, that Hillary Clinton herself is a threat to their way of life. Where do you come down on that?
Yes. Well, it's concerning for me, for the
as stated, for the first 100 days of her presidency, if elected, that she would have an open borders and an amnesty for the already illegal immigrants. And then what's questioning in my mind is the vetting process for the Syrians, the nation of Syria, and how we're going to properly vet that population, especially Syria being a hotbed of Islamic extremist terrorism. And it's an ideology that is at war, not only with America, but the world.
Beth, you first, and Kathy, I want to get your take on this idea of the soccer mom transitioning to the security mom. We talked about, gas prices in previous elections and pocketbook issues. Is national security more of a concern to you than those issues?
Absolutely. And I said earlier, I believe in this election particularly, national security is number one in my mind. Going with the Hillary Clinton poll, I absolutely believe that that would be a huge mistake, and which is why that I would not be voting for her. I think that Americans have to wake up. In this election, we have a potential 3 to 4 Supreme Court justices that will be elected to the bench. Federal judges, traditionally now, their role is not to protect the Constitution. The role is to legislate, basically, social justices. And if we get 3 to 4 liberal judges, if Clinton is a president, I think that the way of life that we've had from our founders and our constitutional individual liberties will be eroded.
Kathy, I want to get your take on the security issue and whether Hillary Clinton is the one to do it. Former senator, she's been in the White House, she's seen it unfold, she's been through conflicts with her husband, President Clinton, and as Secretary of State, she's watched this. So the argument from the Clinton campaign is that's the person you want answering the phone call at 3 in the morning. You disagree?
I disagree completely, because from my perspective, and now more emails have come out to show us that she was actually having some kind of pay for play kind of activity. So when we're talking about what kind of diplomat we want to represent America, do we really want someone that we have who are receiving funds from various organizations and putting that into her pocket or wherever it is? And then not only that, but we have the reset button that did not work. We have the Benghazi scandal. We had the Clinton Foundation
So Nell,
scandal.
to Kathy's point, the trustworthiness, you're the Democrat here on the panel, the trustworthiness problem for Hillary Clinton. How does she overcome that to you?
I think that you go back to experience. You go back to political experience, and she is by far the candidate with the most political experience.
But that experience is all criminal activity is what we're discovering. And so we have to, these things matter.
I would disagree. I don't think
she
that
may
all of her
disagree,
political
but
experience
she's
is
under
criminal
what, 4
activity.
different congressional investigations. These things must matter. Morality matter. John Adams himself said our Constitution only works for moral and religious people who understand the difference between right and wrong. And she's been wrong on so many different occasions.
Well, thank you, all 4 of you, for joining us this morning and talking about these security issues. We really appreciate it, and thanks for sticking
Thank you.
with us all morning. Beth, Nell, Deborah, Kathy, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tucker, Anna, over to you.
Right, great job, guys. We do have a big show still ahead, so don't move a muscle. But this Fox News alert first, Democrats hit with another serious attack, a hack attack. Some of the material leaked directly from Nancy Pelosi's PC.
And public schools offering kids a lesson in espionage, paying Edward Snowden to speak to the children. Are you okay with that?
Wow, and would you let Clayton take your kids to a baseball game? If he acted like this with a video every game.
Right, he was at the Pirates game, and he was there. He's walking back to his seat with a plate of nachos and a beer, and a foul ball was hit, and people started yelling. He said, oh, what am I going to do? And instead of trying to, put one thing down or move out of the way, the ball basically.
You know what? He tried to have it all, didn't he? It's a metaphor. It's like the Tower of Babel. You can't have it all.
And now it's like a viral video, though.
And in the end, he lost the nachos, the beer, and the baseball.
But
so
then
I kept the nachos and the beer, just lost the baby.
Well, the guy ended up getting free food, so maybe you'll get some free food too. And of course, it was just a baby doll.
Oh, so good. Yeah, it was just
Daddy didn't mean to do it. All right, 34 minutes after the hour, we have to tell you about some other stories that are making headlines. We'll get to this one. One of America's best stealth fighters, grounded by a swarm of bees, maintenance crew discovering 20,000 honeybees hanging from the exhaust nozzle of this F-22 Raptor. Experts say the massive 8-pound colony likely looking for a new place to live on the Virginia base, but they were sent packing to provide honey for a local beer producer. An officer's car is completely flipped onto its roof. Look at this. We're getting a first look, though, at how this all happened. Dashcam video capturing the moments the squad car is T-boned by another car at an intersection, causing it to flip over. Here's another view of the Minnesota officer pursuing a red light runner just before he gets hit. The officer radios for help while dangling upside down.
University of Mississippi, I'm upside down. Extrication.
Ooh, you don't hear that very often. Well, the officer did have minor injuries and was taken to an area hospital. We hope he's all right. And imagine being greeted by a 300-pound alligator inside your own garage. That's exactly what happened to a Texas man. The animal likely trying to catch some shade, maybe, on a hot day. Who knows? Well, trappers removed the nearly 9-foot beast, not without a fight, and they are taking it to a gator farm, they say. Tucker.
All right. Next up in movie news, Seth Rogen's new animated film Sausage Party is being accused of being a bad movie by the critics, but it's also being accused of, wait for it, racism.
Taste. Rick and Clayton are outside with Omaha Steaks.
That is it. It is National Filet Mignon Day today, if you didn't know. We have some delicious steaks on the grill.
That's right, and Todd Simon is the Senior Vice President of Omaha Steaks. He's here to show us how to make the perfect filet mignon, the finest steaks in the country. If you get Omaha Steaks, they are fantastic. Nice to see you, Todd.
It's great to be back, you guys.
We are so happy you're here. The filet mignon, the most tender, and you have 65 options.
There's 65 options. You can find them on omahasteaks.com. You know, there's some interesting facts about the filet mignon. It's less than 1% of all beef is filet mignon, and it's been scientifically proven to be the tenderest cut of steak.
Okay, so you don't want to screw it up, is what you're saying. So, step one, getting your grill temperature right. How do we preheat it properly? What's the key?
So I start out by putting my grill on high, and we've got a nice hot grill over here.
We're very thankful on a day like today that you have a nice hot grill here.
Really
for
feels
us.
great.
Exactly.
Really feels great.
And then what you've got here, when you have a filet mignon, is you've got a big piece of the tenderloin, right, which also is part of the T-bone right here. You can see that that's also a big piece of filet mignon. We've got bone-in fillets too. But these are nice thick fillets. So what I do is I brush them with a little bit of oil. And then I always want to season them. I'm using Omaha Steaks Private Reserve Seasoning, also available at omahasteaks.com. And then what I'll do with a thicker steak, now you can do it different ways, but what I do with a thicker steak is I'll put it on the grill, and then what we'll do is we'll sear it for a couple minutes on each side. And then I'll lower the temperature of the grill, and I'll close the grill and cook it for about 10 minutes at about 400 degrees. What that does is roast the steak all the way through, makes it absolutely perfect and evenly cooked like the ones that we have right here.
One huge mistake is using a fork, because like Rick and I want to just dive in and eat this thing. You say don't use a fork, use the tongs. Why?
That's right. So you never want to use a fork because it pierces the meat and it lets all the juices fall out. So what you want to do is you always want to use a tongs or a spatula to gently turn the meat and leave it alone. You don't want to press it and prod it. You just want to put it on,
flip it over and over,
flip it once, and then cook it for about 60% of the time on the first side and about 40% on the second side.
So 60% on the first side, 40% on the remaining side.
Exactly.
Then you want to use a clean plate, not like something
or dirty fingers.
And what we have here are things that you can share too. Like this is a filet mignon flatbread. You might want to try that. Limited time, limited edition product. We have filet mignon pastry bites, perfect for a tailgate. We introduced a filet mignon burger. Now this is like the new platinum standard of burger, and the filet mignon burger, in addition to that, take a look at that, we also have a filet mignon slider. This is a nice little mini burger. Look, you can see the difference in size there.
It's so cute.
Isn't that cute? Yeah.
It's
You
so
guys
adorable.
have thought of everything, Todd Simon.
Omaha Steaks, fantastic. Go to omahasteaks.com. That's the best place to go.
That's the best place. There's 65 different kinds of filet mignons.
Awesome. Happy National Filet Mignon Day. Thank you so much, Todd.
Thank you.
We have some good eating outside.
Yeah, Anna, would you like an adorable slider?
Yummy.
It's FMD. We're celebrating.
20 minutes before the top of the hour, will Democrats hit with another hack attack? Hundreds of personal phone numbers leaked. So should the party be concerned about an October surprise? Our next guest, a Democrat, says yes.
And then public schools are offering kids a lesson in espionage, paying Edward Snowden to speak to your children. What do you think of that?
But first, we're going to check in with David Asman for a look at what's coming up on the Cost of Freedom business block. Snowden, who's wanted for espionage, is raking in thousands of dollars on your dime. Wow, really? Well, listen, the NSA whistleblower reportedly receiving $200,000 in speaking fees from public colleges subsidized with taxpayer funds. He's been living in exile in Russia since leaking classified U.S. government documents. And they say old habits die hard, including Anthony Weiner's sexting problem. His former mistress, Sydney Leathers, says a woman confided in her about similar texts she got from Weiner. The former congressman tweeting these photos in 2013, which torpedoed his political career. Tucker.
Thanks, Anna. Another digital security breach creating a headache for the Democratic Party. The hacker or hackers known as Guccifer 2.0 taking credit for releasing hundreds of House members' personal cell phone numbers and emails. Our next guest says that could just be the beginning of what might be a very long fall. Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha joins us now. Hello. Chuck, it's good to see you this morning. So what do you mean by that? You think that this could be the beginning of a trend? Chuck, can you hear me? My question may have been too profound. Just kidding. We're having technical problems. We're going to come right back with Chuck Rocha, so stay tuned. Satellite problem. Chuck Rocha joins us now to talk about the latest hack of Democratic emails. Chuck, are we going to see more of this, do you think, this fall?
I think it's set up a pattern. You know, I think that if you look at what's been going over and over, and it's really disturbing, okay? And I think that when you have the general electric out there and the people who are actually going to go vote, they want to see something from politicians. And you see this hack, you see this thing going on. It gets more and more people that aren't trustworthy of the system, and they think outside forces are trying to have an impact. So the less people that we have participate in our democracy is not a good thing. I don't care if you're supporting Donald Trump. I don't care if you're supporting Hillary Clinton, but there should not be outside people having influence and your personal information being out there on the internet.
No, I agree with you on all counts. I mean, you don't want people losing faith in the system. It makes them cynical and it wrecks the country. But we're all assuming that this is a foreign government behind these hacks. I don't think we know that, do we? We don't know this is Russia.
We don't. And if you're a political consultant like I am, when you go to a haunted house, you're expected to be scared, right? You walk in, but you're always still scared when something jumps out of the ceiling at you, right? That's what concerns me. What's the next foot that falls? No matter who's to blame for this, we've spent a lot of money on research. And when you have these people out there having this influence and you're running these campaigns, Democrats or Republicans, you're going to be set up for some kind of September surprise. And I think there's a lot more to come.
Well, and it probably will be a bipartisan problem, I would expect. But to this point, it's been mostly the Democratic organizations hacked, and I don't want to blame the victim here because I think they are victims, actually. But on the other hand, if your password is password or Obama Biden 08, you're not really taking security very seriously, are you?
You're not. Matter of fact, you should tell your producers to start calling me and stop emailing me to set up this, because the DCCC is a client of mine, and it costs me just the regular working stuff. Oh my God, how does this affect me? And you think about all Americans who have to set up a password every day for their Gmail account or to order them a new pair of shoes on Amazon. Just basic stuff you should know, and it kind of leads you to believe or who's watching the store.
Well, you wonder about the political effect of all this. So emails, the DNC emails were hacked, of course, right at the beginning of the Democratic convention, and we learned what we already knew, which was they had their thumb on the scale for Hillary against Bernie. You would have thought that that would turn off Bernie supporters, and none of them would vote for Hillary because she participated in a rigged system, but most of them, it turns out, are going to vote for Hillary, disappointingly. So will any of these revelations have an actual effect on actual voters?
So you have about a bunch of the country who is solidly behind Donald Trump and a group of America who's solidly behind Hillary. What you were talking about, Tucker, is that swing voter in the suburbs of Philadelphia and Northern Virginia, probably right outside of Las Vegas. In these states, it's a super small group of them, right? And they're already cynical a little bit. They've already not seen their wages go up for 20 years. They're looking for somebody to inspire them. They're looking for a reason to vote. And every time this comes up, it gives them another reason to believe that the system is rigged and for them not to participate. And we need more people participating in our democracy to have a full debate of what really matters for our country.
So if you're the Hillary people, if you're Robbie Mook and John Podesta, what are you worried about most? What's the silver bullet you fear could actually derail your campaign?
no matter what that silver bullet is, you go through every single scenario and you be prepared. You know, I was senior staff with Bernie, and we prepared every day for what could be coming next, either from Hillary or from the Republicans. You have to set up every scenario like you're going into battle to be able to deal with it, get out in front of it, and make sure that your narrative is heard. But right now, I don't know if they know what that would be.
Yeah. And last question really quick. Why is anybody emailing? Isn't text safer?
I think so, right? I don't know who's still emailing. My son tells me all the time, don't email me. Let's do this Snapchat. I don't know nothing about no snapping or nothing about no chapping.
And that's why I love you, Chuck Rocha. No snapping, no chatting.
That's
love
right.
it. Thanks, Chuck. Good to see you.